Roll call.
Parker. Here. Miscelinich.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Zittergruen. Chisel.
Here.
Whittle.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Okay, public comment. Tonight, since we have a lot on the agenda, I will allow 30 minutes for people to give comments, 3 minutes each, and I want to hear for those that were here last week. I want to hear for those who didn't get to speak this week, and then anybody else who has anything else to come up. Come up, state your name and your address. And if you want, you can push it over. No, looks like you got it, okay.
Ruth Palmer, 1407 Laurel Drive in Decorah, and I'm a volunteer with the Immigration Action Network and the Peace and Justice Center since 2011. With the group that was gathered here, I share a common concern for the rights of immigrants, but I oppose their proposed separation ordinance because the focus of all in this room needs to be on protecting rights, on building unity, not separation. In the protest against illegal ICE activities and keeping an eye on the big picture goal of a safe and welcoming community. Together, we need to recognize that the political party in power now at the federal level controls current immigration reprehensible practices and the dehumanizing narrative so that we don't attempt to fight each other in this room or to fight City Hall. So we need the passion, the energy, the ideas of every person here to commit to the protection of the most vulnerable in our community, recognizing that we are only as strong as our weakest link. In our common strategic goal of protecting rights, when proposed tactics aren't working, we all have that universal question of what can we do? We need each to step back, regroup, look beyond our comfortable silo of gathered supporters, to have the courage to reach out to develop together a much wider arsenal of effective tactics, recognizing and respecting our differences. Some want to be loud, some want to work quietly, some are new at this work, some have been working for years. Some have a role in government, some work in direct contact services. Some are willing to work on planning the strategy to tackle the burden of bureaucracy of current unjust laws and organizational planning for helping organizations. Some just want to do something practical now, recognizing the gravity of the situation. So how do we harness the energy, the passion, the commitment of each person here today, building on the foundation of Decorah's history of commitment to welcoming immigrants from Nordic to the newest arrivals, empowering them, helping them to find their voice, building together safety, security, and welcome. We can only do that effectively when we are willing to change, to ask tough questions, to work toward all working together, that tough word, compromise. What do immigrants need? Where do those who have been doing this work with immigrants for a long time need help? What can each person in the groups gathered here today offer toward that common goal? A lot of times the work is just plain hard. It can be tedious, is not glamorous, and sometimes just demands presence, accompaniment, new ideas, communication. But each of us here needs to be as resilient, resourceful, and committed as the immigrants with whom we share this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you. And then just pull that up. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine Kolarski, and I live at 2512 River Road in Decorah. We're here in red tonight to call on our elected officials to show courage and pass common sense protections that create real separation between our community and immigration enforcement. Over the past 7 months, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents have arrested and deported U.S. citizens, caused car crashes during reckless pursuits, brandished weapons of war on unarmed children, unnecessarily used force against our elected officials, And as of July, at least 13 people have died in ICE detention, putting this administration on pace for the deadliest year for ICE detention in decades. These are just a few of the egregious acts that ICE has committed since the Trump administration has implemented its smash and grab deportation tactics. Do we, the people of Decorah, really want to be known as complacently handing over our neighbors over to such treatment? I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that we're strong enough and good enough to stand up and say no. We do not want our police department aiding this known abusive agency any more than that which is absolutely legally necessary. We know that ICE routinely targets immigrants, arrestees, as a way to entrap them in their deportation web. That is why the separation ordinance is so important. It will set clearly defined limits of how our local agencies will interact with ICE. It will formalize our commitment as a community that honors human rights for all. It will maintain the positive, trustworthy image of our police department as one that is here to protect and serve the people, not as stooges for politically sponsored hate and abuse. I know in my heart that we are so much better than the reality of this given moment. And there will come a day when the Trump regime is no longer in power. When all is said and done, I need to be able to say that I did everything in my power to protect those that MAGA works so hard to harm. And I would think that any officer with integrity would want the same.
Thank you.
My name is Matthew Alexander. I live on Iowa Avenue in Decorah. I've lived here in Decorah for over 30 years, and I'm joining with others of our community to support a separation ordinance. I believe it will allow for Decorah to support our neighbors and friends and have all people treated with respect, dignity, and care. I don't believe it is our police force's intention to treat folks with disrespect. We are seeing a rise in unjust and aggressive treatment in people in our country, with many arrests happening without due process. What we are seeking is a way to help have a more equitable treatment of our immigrant and refugee neighbors. When I consider what it would have been like for my Norwegian great-grandparents to have experienced such heinous and cruel action, it stops me in my tracks. Having a good grounding in our beliefs, morals, and values seems to be essential in how we move forward, standing with our community to make life more equitable, safe, and livable for everyone was how I was raised and what I found here in Decorah and many of the groups and corners of this community. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. The lack of due process has already been shown to be unfair, unjust, incorrect, and often unlawful. We support this proposed separation ordinance to allow for respect and pause in the lightning attacks on people and to give inherent human rights on their inherent human rights and freedoms. We would seek to have some say in how people are treated here, to uphold the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew.
Hi, my name is Andrea Hexum Beck, and I live at 312 Center Street. Thank you for including discussion about the separation ordinance on your agenda for this evening. I would like to thank our police department, sheriff's department, and all of the first responders in our city for keeping us all safe. I love Decorah, because it's a city where people help each other and everyone is welcomed with open arms, including myself when my daughter and I moved here from Spain in 2013. As a former immigrant myself, I support this ordinance because it helps Decorah comply with federal immigration enforcement without giving away extra information that could compromise the safety of our immigrants, and it does so without interfering with local policing. It took courage to agree to look into ways that we can keep our immigrants safe, especially when there is disagreement from local groups that have been helping our immigrants for years about whether this ordinance draws too much attention to our little town. Make no mistake, ICE will be in Decorah soon whether we like it or not. And we need to be ready to do everything within our power to protect our immigrants from being whisked away, never to be seen again. We can't protect our immigrant community if we let fear keep us from doing what we know is right. That is what the current federal administration is counting on. We need to take our heads out of the sand and do everything that we can to keep ICE from tearing apart our immigrant community, many of whom don't feel safe walking around in our community anymore. The ordinance provides a way to maintain dignity for all immigrants in Decorah and promote safety for everyone. There are people that I love and care about who will be protected by this ordinance. Thank you for looking into a way to help to keep our immigrants safe.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Margaret Betteridge, and I am a retired Spanish teacher here in Decorah. I live on Washington Street. I volunteer with the Immigration Action Network as a Spanish interpreter and have been doing that for many years. Our organization helps with a variety of initiatives to support immigrant families in Northeast Iowa, and our goal is to work towards justice for all, regardless of where people are from. Personally, and our organization, I think, feels this way. We have a lot of confidence and are very grateful in our local law enforcement. We've had personal conversations with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Chief, and believe that they are working their hardest to defend the rule of law and to ensure that everyone is treated fairly and consistently. I think many of us in this room and across the country are appalled by the ruthless tactics of ICE across our country. They're separating families, that is not okay. They're deporting immigrants to regions in Africa, that is not okay. They're not maintaining the rights of humans. But this proposed ordinance is not something that our city can realistically adopt. This type of reform needs to happen at the state or national level. Unfortunately, our city government can't legislate ICE. I wish we could. But I hope, moving forward, that we can continue the conversation about how to support and protect our immigrant neighbors. And I hope that all of us, can work together to find common ground and continue to defend human rights for all.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Does anyone else want to speak?
Thank you.
Hello. Amy Ravello. I live on 1771 Old Stage Road.
Can you speak a little closer to the microphone?
Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You may just have to speak up just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amy Ravello. I live on 1771 Old Stage Road. I came here today to similarly ask and provide some information about the separation ordinance that several of us in this community are asking for. But first, let me get back to the basics, right? Initially, we came last meeting asking to be put on the agenda, simply to have a discussion about this separation ordinance that clearly separates local police enforcement from ICE. We're asking this so that Decorans can be confident that their tax dollars are being preserved for and exclusively used for our local law enforcement, and not for subsidizing ICE activities that should be paid for by the federal government. Additionally, this ordinance is intended to ensure that ICE is not using immigration status information collected by our local law enforcement if local law enforcement is not legally required to collect it or share it. This request is consistent with the laws of Iowa and federal immigration law. There is no reason to deny this legal request at this time when we are seeing an increase in racial profiling and targeting of certain ethnic and language minority groups. Even if they are U.S. citizens, green card holders, students, or those with visas, we're seeing an increase of ICE targeting of various communities with status, legal status. We also want to ensure that Decorans' encounters with Decorah law enforcement remain encounters with Decorah law enforcement and do not result in mistaken detentions or deportations like those of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, which you may have seen on the national news, among others. Whether you want to brush these off as encounters that media sensationalizes or saturates the media cycle with, it is not simply the case that we are being deceived. The number of U.S. citizens detained, arrested, and deported is too high. So high that Congressman Dan Goldman and Senator Elizabeth Warren, along with Mark Kelly of Arizona and Congressman Lou Correa, Senator Alex Padilla, and others, on August 8th, led 50 members of Congress to demand immediate investigations into the alarming reports of U.S. citizens being wrongfully detained and deported by federal immigration agents under this administration's aggressive immigration enforcement policies.
10 seconds.
We want to ask you to consider whether 2 years from now or 4 years from now, you will ask yourself if you're okay with acquiescing in this moment, and we are asking you to be brave. As Michelle Wu from Boston recently
That's
said,
3 minutes.
we will not back down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Ravello. I also live on Old Stage Road. I just want to address a few things about the ordinance. I've heard people say that we can't pass it because we can't legislate ICE. That's not what the ordinance is asking us to do, or asking the city to do. It's just asking that local law enforcement does exactly what's required under the law and nothing that isn't explicitly required. And I've also heard that it's not something that the city can legislate at the city level, but according to the, I forget the name of the organization, but we have it printed out. We've got the information we can give you all later. There are around 40 cities across the country that have enacted similar policies, as well as around 160 counties that have instituted similar policies. So I just want to address those maybe misconceptions or misunderstandings of what the separation ordinance is. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing and seeing none. City manager report.
Oh, we've got a number of projects underway, one of which, Hively Street Phase 1, is probably the one most people see on an almost daily basis. So want to make sure the public's aware that hopefully within the next 2 weeks we can see the west end of that project reopened to vehicle traffic. However, within that same 2 week window, we're going to see the project move to the east, which is going to restrict access to the front driveway entrance here, as well as the Army Reserve Center. So all access for this building, if you're not parking out front off Claiborne Street, you'll be accessing off of Goose Island through that driveway entrance as well. That's the main thing I had to report, Mayor.
Carrie?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Kirsten?
Last week, Steve and I attended the Hotel Motel Marketing Committee meeting. Alyssa Ritter from the Wichita County Development put out some really interesting statistics. They got on a site called Air DNA, and currently we have 163 different Airbnbs or VRBOs currently in the city limits of Decorah or in the area here. That brought in or generated $5,207,000 worth of income last year, and that was accumulated over 25,107 nights booked. So I know that's an issue because we have 163 less houses that people can buy, but it also is generating a lot of income we have coming in to the area. Visitor Center log, this is just through the Visitor Center down at the Chamber of Commerce. People that signed in there over the course of last year, we had 30 plus states that signed in and 9 plus countries that came through that office right there. So I'm sure we had almost every state visiting us here. Lawn Share Night continues to be a big success here in Decorah. That's Thursday night downtown there. Nordic Fest, they brought in similar sales to what they had last year. Decorah continues to be a destination that people want to travel to. So I tip my hat to Alyssa, Jessica, Stephanie, and Amanda, and Meg down there at the Chamber and Wichita County Development for the great job they're doing down there. They deserve all our support. And I also tip my hat to Decorah staff and the people here for doing such a good job to make Decorah the presentable place that it is that people want to come visit. So thanks, guys. That's it.
Steve Zitterman?
Thanks, Mayor. Again, my profound thanks to the public for coming here and sharing comments, both for and against. I know we'll have that discussion later, but I do want to say thank you. The other thing I wanted to bring up today is I happened to be at a county supervisor meeting last Monday for an unrelated issue, but there I was, appreciative and impressed to see members of our staff and the mayor there advocating for the city's a request that the county consider a gift to the new rec complex. I appreciated Travis's leadership and your presence, Mayor, and Mark as well. One thing I heard from the supervisors at that meeting was that they've been hearing from many of their constituents that that their constituents don't want this project to be supported, even though 40% of the people who use Decorah's Parks and Rec facilities, I think it's more than 40 actually, are not in-town residents of the county. They're rural residents of the county. And so I hope that in the spirit of, making sure that our supervisors hear representatively from those whom they serve, that members of the public who feel differently would consider also contacting their Board of Supervisor representatives and encouraging them to strongly consider a show of support for this community project. It's really important because one of the major grants that's out there is called a CAT grant. It's a grant that made the Trout Run Trail that surrounds our community possible in a lot of big ways. That CAT grant strongly weights county participation in projects like this, and we could literally be leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table in outside funds, money coming into the community, if the county chooses not to support this project. So I do encourage them to support it. I encourage you to contact your county representatives who represent you as well if you are a Decorah resident, and encourage them to support this project that serves everyone, not just Decorah residents. Thanks.
Randy?
Well, yeah, I do have something tonight. First, I want to give a huge shout out to our Decorah Fire Department. Last Friday, we had a little incident at St. Benedict's School. They were there quickly and called me ahead of time so I could meet them down there, which They contained all the damage to the lower level in the boiler room. Through their quick work and also Alliant Energy showing up to cut the power just to the school and leaving the neighborhood up and running was just incredible teamwork. And then Perry Novak Electric Company, they were on site before they were cleared to go into the building, already working on a plan based off the pictures that Mike Ashbacker had shared with me. I'm happy to say we will be open tomorrow through the hard work of everybody involved. We had a lot of volunteers come in today. We've had ServPro working 3 days. But through the hard work of our community, we're able to get our school back up and running, and we all really, really appreciate it. So, thank you.
Christopher.
Just kind of building on some of the things that Steve said, just wanted to, say how much I appreciate people coming tonight, voicing their opinion. That's part of our civic duty. An additional thing is last week, I got a chance to get out and talk to some constituents in my ward, which was, a great thing to do. It really, brought me back to, the constituents are here for us, and having those conversations with them is great, especially to see what needs or issues may arise. And I just urge anyone, exactly like we're doing tonight, if you have issues or concerns, always feel free to have conversations with your elected officials, because that's why we're here. We're here to serve you, and if we can't have those conversations at the end of the day, I think, building on that, those conversations are what we need, and it was just great to get back to the roots and have those conversations. So, thank you.
Cody?
Nothing specific other than thanking everybody for speaking today. I know how hard it can be to get up and stand and speak out in front of a whole group of us and everybody else too. So thank you for doing that, and I appreciate just the community involvement that it brings.
Emily?
Yeah, I echo everyone's sentiments. Thank everyone for being here tonight, and look forward to the discussion at the end of the evening. I had a quick question for Kirsten on his comments. So the new figure is 161 Airbnbs?
163.
So I believe when I started on council, it was right around 100. It's interesting.
And that is different ones, because even though they did Airbnbs and VRBO both, they did anything that was duplicated on both sites, they didn't count it twice. It was just counted once.
Yeah.
That's separate ones.
So just as a comment in general, because we do get asked a lot about housing stock in Decorah and specifically about Airbnbs, the regulation of Airbnbs is one of the ways in which the state has limited local control, right? We are not allowed, a law passed in 2021, is that correct, Travis? That no longer allows cities to set any parameters on short-term rentals. So as you think about wait a minute, Airbnbs are beneficial on one hand for economic development, but that limits the amount of housing stock we have for residents, know that that is something outside of our jurisdiction. So please write your state representatives about that. Give us back the local control. Mm-hmm. And then the other comment I just want to make for council is that I do believe that coming up on the meeting on the 16th, that sustainability would like us to look again at the sustainability plan and make a resolution to pass that plan. And so if you have any comments that you didn't say at the meeting, if you've thought further about it and you want to see any changes before that comes back to us, we will not be discussing the plan ad nauseum that night. We will just assume everyone has read it, and after a short discussion, my hope is that we pass it. So thank you, and thanks, Steve, for pointing out the CAT grant. I encourage, as does for other council members, please, as a county resident, write to the Board of Supervisors and tell them that this is a perfect place for county-city partnerships. And just to echo the data that Steve mentioned, right? I think it's 40% of people utilizing Park Rec live outside of the city. So, thank you.
Brent.
I've had a few comments on the seal coating for Montgomery and then up on Locust, and they've all been very positive. People are very appreciative of the new seal coating that the city is doing, to the point that I've even had somebody say that we should start doing more seal coating around town to preserve our roads, because the seal coating was a positive adventure for some people. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Okay, consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the August 18, 2025 council meeting. B, claims. C, tax abatement, Gregory Armstrong at 531 Mossman Drive, new construction. D, tax abatement, Kevin and Lauren Gilbertson at 709 Washington Street, number 3, new construction. E, walk to end Alzheimer's special event, September 20, 2025. F, special Class C retail alcohol license renewal, Fairfield Marriott. G, Class C retail alcohol license renewal with outdoor service and catering, Toppling Goliath. H, Decorah 2025 Carlson Park Gateway Trail Project pay application number 2. I, award 5th Avenue intersection street patching project to Steve Falk Construction. J, approve purchase of screener for Yardway site using sustainability funds. K, resolution approving service agreement amendment number 3 with ISG for the Decorah Athletic Complex project. And L, Decorah 2025 street improvements chip seal project pay application number 1.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion approved by Kirsten Olson, seconded by Christopher Misselinich. Any further discussion? Hearing seen none, roll call.
Olson.
Aye.
Misselinich.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Jizzle.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider resolution establishing remote water meter recording device installation charges and fees.
Okay, City Code Section 13.20.190 allows the city clerk, with council approval, to set fees for the installation of remote water meters. The city is currently replacing all the existing meters with the new remote read ones with HydroCorp under contract to complete those replacements until September 18th, 2025. After that, we would then be forced to hire plumbers to finish those installations. This proposed resolution would require property owners who do not schedule those replacements with HydroCorp. The city would charge the actual plumber's installation costs billed to the city, plus $50 administrative fee for that coordination. These costs will be added to the property owner's water service bill, and the resolution would direct staff to go ahead and coordinate after the HydroCorp contract ends. Do want to add, so HydroCorp sends 3 initial mailing notices to everyone, and there have been subsequent 2 door hangers. The second one's underway, and we are down to how many? About 500 still. Okay,
500.
About 500 still to go. It's important to note that the system bears the cost of the initial installation, which all of us as customers pay into. And so for those that don't make that make that change while HydroCorp's under contract, then there's going to be additional cost borne by the city to make those installations happen. That should not be borne by the system, but by the individual that failed to get the meter replaced. That's what this resolution is trying to do.
But through September 18th, we'll still be doing it as we are right now.
Correct.
With HydroCorp?
Yep.
Okay.
Would HydroCorp have enough time in town right now to, if all 500 people called tomorrow, to schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
So-
they literally sent, they sent several home last week, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So they said if all of a sudden the schedule fills up and they need to extend it, I think the plan is they'd stay. But like right now, they're trying to find stuff to do while they're here because the schedule's just basically stopped.
And I'll let Randy ask his question, and then I have one more.
Customers that have scheduled, but they were unable to do the installation because of equipment modifications needed, would they be exempt from this if they come back after the 18th to do it?
No, on the surface. I don't want to say it would be selective enforcement of that, but there are extenuating circumstances in everything we deal with. If they have made the effort and contacted with HydroCorp to make those, to be on the schedule to get that meter replaced, if they're reasonable, actually, as I said, if the city bears the cost, we're probably still going to have to turn around and assess the installation cost and the administrative fee. But we want to avoid that. This is also 2 weeks out, and I'm hoping that most of those people that have had, I don't want to say turned away, but if HydroCorp showed up and said, hey, your valve's not working, you got to get that fixed.
I'm talking about older equipment that the new meters don't fit into, so there has to be modifications made. They've been running into that throughout the community in some of the older facilities.
They should all have the same lay length.
Yeah, it's just
That's not what they told us. And he said they've run into this in older buildings throughout town.
When you're saying, so you're talking about St. Benedict's?
Well, I'm talking our
Or
school,
at your home?
but
Okay.
our
Okay.
school.
Okay.
But there are other industrial sized ones,
If-
larger size where they aren't fitting correctly.
If I can interject here, yeah, some of the larger meters, industrial meters or businesses downtown, what we consider the length of the meters have changed over years.
Correct.
A residential one, they're all basically the same size, but some of the larger meters, they've condensed them, they've made them smaller and everything. So some of those do need some replumbing so they fit the smaller meters.
Right, and that's where I'm wondering, will those people be given a grandfather clause to get that work done? We've made good faith effort to have it done up front.
Todd, do you know who those people are?
Not directly, no.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just saying, so long as it's clear it's not due to the fault of the customer, if the customer sat on it till the last, minute, and then they're asking for an extension, that seems not to be appropriate use of city funds to pay.
Right.
And taxpayers paying for that. So I don't know where you draw the line, but I think you could have a carve-out that says something to the extent of customers who, due to no fault of their own, have been unable to make the appropriate corrections to their plumbing, may have the fee waived, something like that. Would that be?
Can HydroCorp come back? So HydroCorp must know these residences. They've been there and said, we can't do this until you have blank done. Would HydroCorp, they already said they're willing to come extend contract, would they be willing to come back if the person has the other work scheduled by the 18th?
Probably not with ones and twos, though, is what
Okay.
eventually we're going to boil down to. We're going to have to replace certain meters. We know we're going to have non-compliance at some level. When we get to that point specifically, we're going to probably have to pursue a different path with municipal infraction type to get a judge to issue that, yes, the city is going to go in and replace that meter, because as this change is happening, the software now is reading those new meters, or is going to read those new meters, and if you're not allowing for that new meter to be installed, it throws off the billing of the system.
Sure. Okay.
So that's a long-winded way of saying, I think Carrie's comment is maybe like that week or two past, as long as several are scheduled, but we're not going to catch all of them with, hey, HydroCorp, can you come back for, next week, Tuesday? We got a couple more scheduled. This is a nationwide firm that they come in, they do an install. I think it's 10 minutes. I wasn't even home when mine was done, but they are in and out and on to the next one rather quickly.
Okay.
Can I ask my fellow council members, I think a carve-out for non-compliance due to equipment issues out of the control of the customer seems reasonable. So I think that we should probably word the motion that way. But I don't want to do that if it's going to be shot down by you all. What do you all think?
I don't know. Would that be up to the discretion of the city to make that judgment?
I was going to suggest the sole discretion of the city clerk and keep it simple.
Does that, can we give discretion to somebody to make that decision? It's not up to the customer, but up to the city?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then I'm okay with it.
And then Carrie, I think the sense that I would want to convey, but I don't know about my fellow members, I would say that if it's a situation where they've been in clear communication with the city, and it's clearly an equipment issue and not them just sort of punting and kind of delaying and not being there when the appointment happens, I would want to make an exception in that case, but otherwise I wouldn't want to make exceptions.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah,
okay
so
with
if
my-
you currently were unable to have a water meter installed by HydroCorp because of an equipment failure, you should notify the city of that ASAP.
And
Right?
HydroCorp does keep, they're really great at the notes and
Okay.
like what's happening and if they, you know, what was said to the customers. So we should have the information there that supports it.
Is that something we need in, like, specific writing, John? That delineates that exactly? Or?
I think you can make a, when you make the motion, you can have an amendment to that, to the resolution that's in Dropbox, and whoever's making the motion say what language you would want included.
I just wrote down what John said, and I'm happy to make the motion, but my intention is to make a new third point before what would then become the fourth point, the all things in opposition to the service ended. And so my new third point would be something like, if water customers, due to no fault of their own, who have been in contact with the city and yet are unable to make the appropriate modifications to their plumbing, request the city clerk to have the fee waived. The clerk may waive the fee at her discretion. Does that, now that's not a motion yet, but I don't want to like get into discussion until we're all okay with that.
Something would work, John?
That language is fine with me as long as.
Carrie, are you
Carrie's
okay being
with
in
it?
the position of being kind of the mean person who says no sometimes?
Do we need to outline what, do we need to set parameters through no fault of their own would be? Like if they, is financial parameter okay? Like,
I mean, you can put whatever parameters, but my concern is you get too detailed there and
Right.
you somehow exclude somebody that we're not thinking about, that maybe there is a good reason. So I mean, you can discuss it, and if maybe you have some language in mind that is specific but flexible.
no, I can just see lots of reasons why. To me, it's just, we're living a very large reason why. You know, oh, I was on vacation for so long and I couldn't get a hold of a plumber, but I don't know, it seems like.
I think you got to leave that up to the,
Okay.
you know, if somebody was on vacation or a sabbatical for 3 months, that's different than 2 weeks, right?
Okay.
And maybe since HydroCorp's only been around, what, 3 months, 4 months?
3 months.
3 months, yeah.
Okay.
If my inclination is just to say that if someone's not checking their mail or email or door hangers for 3 months, then that's just unfortunate. Like that's one of the responsibilities
Well, I
of
just want to
owning
be
a
clear
home
that we're
in
not
this
leaving
town.
it too wide open, that Carrie's going to have to be like, so.
I think she's looking forward to it myself.
Yeah.
It might be a stretch.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay, well
so
then I'll
we-
make a motion
Okay.
here. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I move the resolution, but amended to insert a new third clause before the current third clause that reads, if customers, due to no fault of their own, have been unable to make the appropriate modifications to their plumbing, they may contact the city clerk to have the fee waived at the city clerk's sole discretion.
Can you send that down, Steve? Do you have that written down?
I mean, I have something like it written down.
Otherwise, you can email
It's
me.
close, but I'll do my best to find the recording and get it.
And
I would say
I
we've
have
got the
Zoom.
recording.
I think we're
I
gonna
have
have to. I mean,
You use your microphone very well. So.
well, I can say exactly what I've written. If we should probably know what we're voting on, so let me try again.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I think we have it.
What's that?
No, Right, go ahead.
I'm sorry. If customers, due to no fault of their own, have been unable to make the appropriate modifications to their plumbing, they may contact the city clerk, who may waive the fee at the city clerk's sole discretion. I think. Is that
Second.
John?
Sorry, as you said that, could you have a date on that by September 18th or September?
Oh, yeah.
September 18th is the date, yeah.
A friendly amendment, if I can just add, if customers who have contacted the city by September 18th. Is that acceptable?
2025.
Yep. Yes. I'm
Okay.
good with the amendment.
Okay, well then that's my very clear motion.
Okay, I will second that motion.
Motion made by Zittergruen, seconded by Olson. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Misselinich,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Just for the record, you had me second because I seconded, but the mayor read KO seconding, so just so the notes reflect who actually seconded.
I did not hear you, I only heard
Okay.
you.
Okay. So I think it's
fine.
my second, yeah.
Go with
Okay.
that order then. Neal's shorter than Olson.
Okay.
Just to make it legal.
Thank you. You understand it.
Yes,
Publication
exactly.
costs.
Exactly.
So did we get it corrected as far as who seconded?
Neil.
Neal's shorter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, consider resolution calling an election on proposal to enter into a general obligation loan agreement and borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed 10 million to 18 million.
Now, before we dive into this topic, I feel like I need to clarify. When I said we call that Tuesday, I don't mean that's when Carrie's mean. I mean that we often have to tell people no, and today is Tuesday. So, all right. With that lighthearted intro, we'll get started into the discussion of this building. So, the City Council has discussed the fire station municipal building project for the past several years. Consensus has been to pursue a $10 million referendum question while determining the best path forward. The city is working with ISG, which we have 2 representatives present tonight, to determine estimated costs associated with 3 options. And those, again, a renovation with addition of the existing facility that accommodates the fire department only, demolition and new construction of a fire department only, and demolition with new construction of all the current services on site. The preliminary construction estimates for the 3 options, including soft costs, are currently $12 million plus a little for the construction renovation with an addition, $12,600,000 roughly for demolition, new construction, fire department only, and $17,200,000 roughly for all services as a new construction. Those tax implications have been included for options 2 and 3. 2 is the higher between 1 and 2, and they're close enough, so we just did 2 and 3 in there. Those are Dropbox files 7C and 7D. In addition, a cash equivalent for lease payments of a 9,371 square foot space, which is the space programming difference between the fire department only options and the rest of services, is included as Dropbox file 7E. That equals to approximately $40.50 per square foot per year. Staff has been in discussions with a potential partner on a build-to-suit lease option. However, this price point is probably unrealistic for a new build. Existing facilities would be limited in the area, and I've been doing some calling. That current lease rate is about $13 a square foot for the existing facilities, but ones of around this size are a little limited. The current ballot question as drafted reads, shall the city of Decorah in Winnebago County, state of Iowa, enter into a loan agreement and issue general obligation bonds in the amount not exceeding $10 million for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of developing municipal facilities for fire protection, city hall and or parks and recreation department uses, either through new construction or addition renovation, including acquisition, installation of furnishings and equipment. Very long question because we had a very broad approach. We wanted all 3 still kind of on the table until we narrowed that down. ISG has worked to a point that they're able to identify if we do 10, the construction alone on the renovation with addition is just north of $10 million for the construction estimates alone. So no soft costs would be able to be part of a $10 million bond issuance. We wouldn't expect to cover soft costs associated with the project. So that's one question that we had additional time to help answer. If we do 10 million, we're coming up with 2 million for soft costs somewhere else. In addition to that, we now have a rough estimate difference between having existing staff as part of this, existing as a non-fire department staff as part of this project, the difference between that and the fire department projects. So we've got that number dialed in. And so the conversation tonight, we're gonna have Sue and Josh discuss shortly. I'll get you there. But the deadline to have this language on the ballot is September 18th to the county auditor. Council's talked about this. We're willing to have maybe a special meeting next week. I would really not like to wait until September 15th council meeting and then just give a matter of a few days to get this, the mayor signed and up to the county courthouse. But, yeah, that should be it.
Travis, the tax impact statement, though, is for a $12 million bond, correct? $12,614,000.
Correct. Both of those are for, there was an earlier version that was also given to council in Dropbox for 10.
Right.
And I can grab that for you as well.
Nope.
I did not want to provide additional information you've already given and create too much confusion. There's already a lot of options there.
So we are able to consider essentially almost $13 million bond, which is bad luck, so we'll go to 12.6.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, are they the same? Oh, yeah, I see it.
And Sue, are you gonna start?
Option 2.
All right. Sue's with ISG. She is the referendum support specialist. Is that the title?
Today it is.
Today it is?
Here we go.
All right.
Thanks for letting us spend some time with you tonight. My name is Sue Peterson. As Travis said, the work that I'm doing for you is really to support, should you consider a referendum for the November ballot. And my colleague,
Yeah, I'm Josh Gross. I'm an architect with ISG, just helping out determine exactly what is needed and what isn't needed.
so Travis really maybe stole our whole speech, so here we go. He went through it at a very quick, high level, and so I think our intention is we want to make sure you truly understand how we got to the certain numbers, the work that our team has done. I think all of understanding and data collection is really important as you're considering asking your constituents to open their checkbooks and consider some sort of a bond referendum. So on that front page, basically we took all of the attachments that are in your Dropbox, but I'm a simple soul, so I thought if they were in front of you and you can kind of flip through them. I'm also an old lady with old lady eyes, so we took the images and we blew them up for you, so you see you've got 3 of them there. So our intention really on that first page is we want to make sure you understand the research that our team has done, that we brought a group in and did an in-depth facility assessment and really said, what does this building look like? What type of investment would be needed? We're still working on that report. And then really identifying those 3 projects and how they're different and the costs associated with them. So, you know, we kind of are saying we're at a turn right or turn left, and we maybe have 3 different directions we could go. So we want to walk through those options, have some conversation with you, and then just have some spirited conversation if we can about what direction you're feeling you'd like to go if we can get there tonight. As we've talked with Travis in advance of our time together, in my experience, I've worked on hundreds and hundreds of bond referendum across municipalities and schools. The tighter we can have that question as far as what your constituents know you're doing. So if this is well, we might build new or we might renovate, that does leave some question for people on, what do I think? Do they know the plan? So I think we have enough information that if you feel as you move through this that one option makes sense to take off the table or another, that's really our intention tonight, to at least, if we don't have all the answers, to be able to continue bringing you more information moving forward. Of course, that November 4th ballot, you heard Travis say, September 18th is kind of the important day, right? So we understand that, and again, we do this work all the time. So with that, I think Josh is going to ask you to turn to the next page, the teacher and me, and really he wants to talk about the work he's done, and he led our team through that assessment. Go for it.
Okay. All right, so we're looking at this first page. Got it all? All right, so this is basically just a summary of the services that ISG was hired to perform. We were hired under a public request for qualifications. We were selected, and this is essentially just saying we're halfway through our services. We tried very hard to get some information quickly, but there's still work that we are going to be doing. But what was identified very early on is that we need this referendum language kind of ironed out to allow voters to have a very clear understanding of what project would be happening with the money. So with that, just first, we've done the facility conditions assessment. We spent the whole day here with all the departments walking through their spaces to do the space needs. We walked with them for 4 hours, understanding the function of each department, how they use the spaces, what's working, what's not working, what spaces they're lacking, et cetera. So that was a very deep dive into this building and the functions of the departments that are housed here. So anyways, going to the next page is kind of just an overview of what we found doing the facility conditions assessment. And this is extremely high level. This is basically just a graphic representation to show you you got a couple elements in this building that you can maintain, and a lot that you are going to have to start planning to do capital maintenance, capital repairs on. So for budgeting purposes, you can kind of think of this as the left side as your operating maintenance stuff, and the right side is kind of a capital budget. So anyways, that's just the condition of the building. Moving on to the next page is a summary of space needs that was developed based on that one day we spent. And this graphic holds a lot of information in it, so if you got questions, please ask them. But very quickly, the yellow color is this building as it is today, how much space, square footage is allocated to each use. The green color, the green bar, is what we are proposing, what ISG is proposing square footage should be based on conversations and walkthroughs. And then that bluish gray color is the previous study that was completed, where they proposed the square footage should be. So I guess the big takeaway from this sheet is it's not as big as the past study. It's way more dialed back, but there is definitely a need for additional space to allow these departments to function adequately. So with that, that's super quick summary of facility assessment and space needs. And then we took the square footages and basically rolled them into these 3 options. The 3 options were identified in the RFQ from the city, so that is what we're kind of studying. So yeah, the first option, as Travis said, is demoing a portion of the building, renovating a portion of the building, and then adding an addition on to what was demoed. And that's the fire department only. That comes in roughly around 12 million, hard cost and soft costs included. And yeah, I guess I'm on still this summary page of the options, not your big blown up options, but our key considerations that I kind of wanted you all to walk away with for option one was the reason why that cost is so high as compared to option two, which would be a full demo, is this building needs a lot of work, and to maintain a portion of it means you will be addressing all of those capital maintenance items. In addition, when you maintain this building but expand the fire department usage to the entire building, there's a code requirement that kicks in, which is essentially the fire department is considered an essential use facility. So it has more stringent standards for structural than the city hall by itself. So if this was to become a fire station only and the part of the building would be maintained, what we're actually talking about there is everything needs to come down. Additional members need to go into the roof to increase the roof's capacity, and then the cast-in-place concrete that's very unique and characteristic of this building, that would have to actually get covered in reinforcing, because there is no real way to, take it apart and add joists like there is like in standard roof construction. So maintaining this building is an extremely expensive proposition. In addition, the last kind of key consideration is option one does not include parks or city administration or council. Moving on to option two, that's the 12.6 roughly million, and that was to demo this building entirely and build a brand new fire station only. This is very standard construction cost. This isn't high end, this isn't low end. At this point, we just don't have enough developed to give extremely specific numbers on what materials, what finishes, what kinds of systems are in. These are rough square footage costs to try to help us all arrive at the turn left or turn right decision here. So yeah, but the cost is, the cost is the cost. But what you get in option two is just a clean slate. You're spending money on functionality and improved spaces as opposed to maintenance and upgrading of something that's not really serving the purpose of the fire department.
So if you look at the larger printouts, those have option one and option two. That second attached page has the costs associated with the program.
Yeah.
Those larger. So just as we're kind of
Yeah,
working through this, you can see a little bit, like as Josh is talking, the difference. You've got 600,000 more for option two. In option one, you save, if you will, even though there's an intensive gut job, we could say, to a large portion of this building.
Yeah, and then option three, the final one is just demo the existing building and build brand new, but to accommodate the rest of the departments that are currently on this site. And to do that, we basically are proposing a second floor on the footprint. And that, again, it's obviously more expensive because it's more square footage, but the benefits there is you don't have to relocate and completely figure out something brand new. So, yeah.
So you add about 8,000 square feet,
Yep.
right,
Yep.
to the third option, but everybody stays together. There's some benefits to shared spaces.
Oh, right, yes, thank you. Yeah, right, the benefit in co-locating multiple departments in one facility is that there's an inherent sharing of spaces, conference spaces, lobby, public restrooms. Those when you do multiple buildings, those obviously, you need those in every single building. But when you have multiple departments in a single building, they can share those. So there is, in essence, some theoretical saving. And that is
So then,
the
yep.
very high-level summary of the options.
And then we did include that space study, the nuts and bolts of how did you get to the 28,000 square
Yeah.
feet. So
Yeah.
if you are bored tonight when you're laying in bed and wondering what each of those, how big each of those spaces is and how we got to those numbers, you'll see that there. Again, then you can look at the attachment on the large, when you had those large images, you can see how that cost broke out in the square footage in each of the options.
And I guess one more thing I'll add is that we have a third party doing the cost estimates for us. All they do is estimate construction costs. We just feel that they are more tapped in, more knowledgeable on costs, and that is why we, brought in a partner, basically, that's what they do. So that is who's preparing the costs, and right now, as I said, they're just rough square footage costs because that's the level of detail that the study is at right now. As further detail is developed, those numbers obviously will get more detailed.
So we knew that between options 2 and option 3, you had about a $5 million delta, right? So option 3 was $5 million more. That next page, this is Travis, you put this together, right? This is what he talked about with the group. As far as if you're just thoughtful of, this is kind of that, do I rent or do I own, right? So that piece. So we wanted, as you're thoughtful and being reflective of an investment for your constituents, we wanted to make sure that you kind of understood the long play of that type of an investment. So Travis did this work here for you as well. Giving something. Do you want to add anything on?
It would be helpful to have this page explained to me as if maybe I was a kindergartner.
Yeah, so
Great.
this page here, unless it's wrong, then I don't take credit for it. No, I'm just kidding. Also ran it by our financial advisor with D.A. Davidson to confirm. He agreed, yes, this is, with the assumption that that annual payment is remaining static. Now, that is going to adjust slightly over the years, but it also doesn't discern whether we want to structure it like a front-loaded debt service repayment or accelerating debt service payment. This just holds everything static, which is what I was trying to do, is show what those annual payments for the next 20 years for a cash lease equivalent of the same square footage would amount to. So our debt service payment for the difference for those 9,351 square feet, that's option 2 to 3. For that dollar amount, if we're paying more than $40.50 per year per square foot in a lease rate, we're paying more than if we were to build it with a bond issuance.
And after 20 years, you have nothing to show for it.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought it was
I just-
saying,
nope,
but
that's right. We wanted to
I
get you
thought
that
it was
today.
saying that, but I just was curious. So again, you're saying that if we were to lease at 40.5 cents per square foot, it would cost us more over a 20-year period than if we bond and build.
$40.50 is essentially the break even, and I'm using air quotes, where the cash lease is the same as the bond debt service payment at that $40.50 per square foot. However, as noted, that's a lease option where you, at the end of 20 years, with a debt service amortized over those 20 years, you're not paying any debt service anymore, but we will continue.
To lease.
You will. 20 years is a long time. Well, hopefully I'm still here. But
I probably won't.
what I'm getting is 20 years, that lease will have to continue beyond that.
Right.
Yep.
Or some other option has to come up in that time where then the cost is incurred then.
Okay, so my interpretation of this was that we should not throw out option 3, even though I want to.
Well, I think it's certainly, we want to make sure you have all the information,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So you'll be done likely paying the bond at 20 years and maybe sooner on whatever amount you bond for. When you build a new building, today's buildings, we're gonna build a building that should be solid without a significant investment for
At least 20 years.
20 years, 30 years, and you'd have your building for probably 80 plus years, right? So again, this is that, when do you buy a house, when do you rent a house? Same type of a thought that homeowners have, or people looking at residency.
Josh, you and I know we talked about this during the facility assessment day. It's a estimated 50-year life cycle, essentially, for new construction that's cost effective, because you can do a 100-year building
For $1, for the right cost, you can make a building.
And that's where I was
last as long
getting
as
at
you want,
is
yeah.
I want us to be realistic that these amounts proposed, we would expect 50 years of useful life without significant capital investment. I mean, you've got your roof replacement, especially. Please God, if we do a new building, let's not do a flat roof. But you've got roof repairs, you've got other maintenance issues. But the realistic life expectancy of a modern day construction is 50 years, correct? At this price point.
I can't say correct. It depends on how well you maintain your building. You can design to 30 or 50 years, but I can't stand up here and guarantee that it will stand.
Fair point.
It's like any other structure. I assume all of you live in some sort of shelter that takes maintenance to keep it nice, and that's just part of the deal. I think as you and I talked during the site visit, what we are really trying to do is ensure that the building is sized and designed to not require a major upgrade or change over the life of the bond, so that you don't have to take on another significant amount of debt to change or grow the building. So the construction is about maintenance and quality. Sure, 20 to 50 years, I'll give you a range. That's the most I'm willing to stand up here and say. But what I would really press upon you is it's about getting the program correct. What uses you want in the building, how big you want the building, and that is where the major costs come from. If you have to do an addition in 10 years, if you need to do a major, something changes, Decorah triples in size, and you need more, staff in the building, those things are what's going to cost.
But we can make some assumptions that major building systems of this quality, roofs, you're certainly you're 20 to 25 years before some investments. It's when we see those buildings hitting that 40 to 50 years. I'm the riskier one of the two, so I'm going to go with, yep, you're right.
Right, I have professional liability on the line, so it's honestly, when we do these facility conditions assessment, we go by BOMA standards, which are the Building Operator and Maintenance Association. They have standards of how long systems should last if you're owning a building. Mechanical MEPs, you're looking at about 20 years. Roofs, you're looking at about 20 to 25 years. The structure, the beam, floors, columns, and roof structure, bearing walls, those will last forever if maintained properly. But yes, systems and materials break down, and you do have to, budget to repair and maintain them.
I have a question. On option 3, you have a second story. And is that include an elevator for access on that?
Yeah.
And is that potentially where offices would be?
The floor plan layouts just haven't been developed yet,
No, I know.
because we're very much at the high level, just total square footage. So it could be whatever. We wanted to make sure that option's still on the table
Okay.
before spending a bunch of city time deciding, working with you guys to decide what goes on the second floor. But it could be the fire station.
So the second
portion
floor
of the
would
fire
actually
station.
be assisting to include the administration park and rec.
It could, yeah.
And this site layout, the site size is really what dictated the need to go.
Yeah, it's really just about providing some additional parking and not getting you guys to a zero lot line, which I don't think anyone wants in this little center of the city here.
So we have costs associated with square footage in the options. And then the other piece, of course, when we're using the R word of referendum, is really what is your constituents' potential tax tolerance, right? And so that's why those next pages you're gonna see, where we went and looked at what does that $12.6 million bond look like? And what does that mean for me as a property owner in the city of Decorah? So you'll see those numbers there that your financial advisor ran. So you see the $12.6 million. If I have a $250,000 home, I would expect to pay just over $23 a month over the course of the bond to fund the project. Now, if I move up to that $17.2 million project, now I'm paying $31.75 a month over the course of the bond. So that's the other piece, right, of, okay, what is it we need from a square footage standpoint? Certainly, if you would move towards the one of the two options that lands in the $12 million amount, you still have to figure out where you're gonna go with the rest of your people, right? And so there's a cost to that, and Travis can speak to that if you need. But again, we just wanted you to have, those are all the different pieces to the puzzle. So I think we'll pause there and get are there questions that are percolating in your mind that we haven't tackled at a high level? It's not a new discussion, right? We've certainly had this a little bit.
I just want to comment, this is very helpful. I mean, it's helpful because this is a high level. We're not getting into the weeds. Like, this is much more, in some ways, less is more when it comes to making this decision, insofar as we just need a big picture option, right? So like the document you prepared telling us that we could rent for the same price it's going to cost to own, in the end own nothing.
I want to be clear. I was showing the cash equivalent.
Right.
I want to be clear about that. So anything more, obviously, we're spending more on the lease. Anything less.
Right. But I assume, you said you were giving sort of this average look at what this could look like.
Correct.
Yeah.
But Travis, your goal was not to figure out what our likely rents would be if we were to rent this space. I mean, that's probably not related to the rents that you could find prevailing in the region, right?
Correct. I did ask for the developer that I've actively been working, discussing this project with, for a cost estimate. It did take a little prying. He's willing to provide it, but he's doing a lot more homework on his end before he even gives me a ballpark. So I don't have what that new construction potential lease range would be. All I was able to get was what the existing was for Decorah with our existing market. Now, one space that I did actually, BMO, Bank of the West building there. I know several have brought up that as a potential site. It took me a very long time, but I did go down a rabbit hole, talked to maybe 5-6 different people with BMO, where I finally got to a point where I was with somebody within the real estate division, and they said, all right, what's your proposal? And I was like, well, I don't have a proposal. Is it even an option? And they're like, ghost me. Done. After that, I haven't had any communication back from BMO. And I had said, is anything on the table? Whether it's leasing the upper floors, is it, would the bank be open to, we currently hold a lease for the drive-through location that has less than 5 years remaining on that lease. I can see the activity that bank sees every day. I don't see the activity on Water Street, but I do know when you walk in there, it's a ghost town. And so is there potentially a land swap so if it's outright ownership, is that something the bank would be interested in? But since I didn't have a proposal, I've been ghosted. Explored that route. Another site that I don't want to say is potential, but it's an option, certainly. The new VA clinic. Now with the new VA clinic open, that current space, I believe, is still available for lease. However, what we're going to face as a challenge with any existing property that we enter into a lease with, we're going to have leasehold improvements. So we're going to have initial costs as well to turn any type of building into a city hall operation. Or we're going to pay considerably more in the rental rate if we make the property owner do it as a term of our lease. So it's a catch-22 on that front too. Here's an additional consideration. If we're leasing, that is an operational cost. That has to be paid out of the general fund. So out of what most call the 810 levy, which is what funds our police department, our fire department, parks, rec, library, anything that's not water, sewer, street gets paid out of that. While there will be some cost savings of not owning a building and not have to pay for the ongoing maintenance associated with it, it is still an annual cost at, if we're using $13 for the current market rate of existing buildings here in Decorah, at I'm going to use 10,000 even though it's a little bit more than this because it's round and I can do that math easier. $13 a square foot per year on a $10,000 space, which is what the VA clinic is. That's $130,000 a year lease payment. That would have to come out of the general fund.
Thanks for the clarification, Travis. I know it maybe seems like that's getting into the weeds a bit, but it's really important that we all understand that he wasn't trying to predict how much we would spend to replace the rent. I want to make sure everyone was understanding that.
But I do want to just reiterate the tax value, or the tax implications between the two plans. So essentially, it's a $23 per month tax implication on a $250,000 house with a $12 million bind and a $31 on the 17
per month.
Per month. So it's an $8 difference. So for $8 a month, we take care of all the city needs. Okay.
For each of the next 20 years,
For
or
20,
until
yeah.
the bond is paid.
For $8 more a month, yeah.
$8 more a month. Yep.
Assuming your house doesn't go up in value.
Well, the
Well,
good
there's
news
caps.
is if that happens, the levy comes down and it should equal
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So it should.
But next year's property tax law, who knows?
So with that, in an effort to facilitate what now, if we think about option one, which was we keep a part of it and gut it and try and make it work, and we put the addition on, I guess, is there anyone that thinks that option one's still on the table?
And this one is just fire department only, correct? We're getting rid of the park rec.
Yep,
and
options one and two are fire department only.
Yep.
Option one is we're gonna try and save a portion of the building.
And I think that's important to note, a portion of, because basically everything from
where you're sitting over has to get demoed.
Yep.
I mean, one, because it's structurally failing in the apparatus bay currently, and then two, just to accommodate the actual modern needs of a fire department.
And it won't address any of the needs that we have in here. So to me, option one isn't an option.
And point of reference, this building that we're sitting in currently is about 60 years old.
When you did your site visit, did you gather the sense that the city has done a great job of taking care of this building over the last 60 years?
I think it is doing as good of a job as any city can do maintaining their buildings based on tax revenue and available dollars and the hard choices of where to spend those dollars. Most often, cities don't spend money on themselves. That's not where they get to spend money. That's not where funds get funneled. So this building, it's in need of, I mean, the departments need more space. The building just doesn't fit them anymore. Is it maintained? Yeah, it's maintained in a decent manner. But all the systems are at the end of their useful life.
Structurally, I also think how we built a building in 1965 versus what
Sure,
we do
I
today
mean,
is certainly different.
Yes, codes have changed since, I think, when was this building, the plaque put on in, like.
60s, I think so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, codes have modernized, everything is modernized. Yeah, the building is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, you know, I've sat up here many times with the choice to let someone else deal with it in 20 years or spend the money now and make everyone angry because their taxes go up a little bit. And it's very tempting to make the choice to sort of punt, you know, kick the can down the road. My hope, you know, it seems like we're going to do something. We're going to bond for something. We're going to spend a lot of money. My hope is that this council can break that chain and actually commit to taking care of the building and being not selfish about it, but actually prioritizing maintaining what we have, including the big capital maintenance that comes up every 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and doing it along the way. Because if we don't have that culture of maintenance in 50 years, this exact same conversation is going to be here. And there's going to be many someones who all make money when we build a new building, telling us, well, you got to build a new building. And I don't want to do that to those who are going to sit in this seat when I'm gone. And so, like, this is more of a message to my fellow council members as we walk down any one of these three paths, or if we find a different path. I think we really have to commit to walking down it a different way.
I also think just that's great wisdom. And if you think about that gold chart that Josh started with, doing nothing is probably not an option for you.
Right.
And so as our team really finalizes that facility assessment, what that could look like is you're going to need to make a X $1 million investment in the very near future. And then those are what I call putting lipstick on pigs, right? Like we're just putting Band-Aids, but they end up being large Band-Aids, and all of a sudden you've invested a lot of emergency money in a facility, and we haven't been able to do the things we needed to do from a space needs and really to better serve your constituents and the employees that work here.
How would you respond to a constituent that said something like, the city's population has been fairly static for the last 60 years. The surrounding rural areas population is declining slowly over the last 60 years, or at least in the last 10 years or so. Why all the extra square footage needed? What has changed? Why? I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. If you don't have an answer, you can email me afterward. I want to know how I'm supposed to respond. I walk in there, I see how busy the staff are and how crowded things feel, but presumably, you know, programming has changed some. Are we? At what point do we say, you know, like, this is the right amount of space for a city's programming?
Right. And I think, if you just look at that next space needs summary piece, I think your fire department can certainly talk about apparatus size and the types of apparatuses you have now, like what that looks like. You know, we've got double the square footage in just that space alone, and then certainly just other spaces that are needed. And that exact question will be, as you move forward, the work that we'll do to create frequently asked questions. And so we'll work, like that question alone would be a piece then we would go back to each department head and the team and say, let's make sure we can answer that question, and so that each of you as council people have the response to that. So we'll dig into that and make sure that everybody knows that information in that information campaign from once we adopt the question of what we're gonna do to election day.
And I'll just add, I came in with the exact same attitude. Travis can, and actually the fire department, Jeff wasn't here that day, but the fire department can back me up on that. I walked into the room and I said, the population of Decorah hasn't changed in the last 20 years. It's based on the census, not projected to change in the next 20 years. You know, convince me what spaces you need, which ones are a priority, which ones aren't a priority. And the square footage we came up with is what everyone, not just the fire, I'm picking on the fire department, obviously, because they're the big group here, but I did it with city admin, and I did it with Parks and Rec too, and we whittled down to what was needed. And I just, in the moment, I would say, from when this building was designed to today, work style has changed, needs of the city has changed, conferencing and training, those were the two big needs of all the departments here. And those spaces are really lacking here. So just kind of anecdotally, what I heard when I came was there's a lack of conference room. We try to accommodate as much as we can into the council chambers, but we end up scheduling over each other, and you know, the fire department is holding trainings either in the apparatus bay or outside, and that's, you know, that's I'm sharing this information in order for you guys to make a decision, but that's, you know, I think in response to an average constituent asking that, it's really, this building was designed 60 years ago, and the way work happens, what services are needed, the amount of training and meetings that the city staff are doing now, it's just different. And so we are just working to find a way to accommodate that.
One thing I do think is important to note, so especially with the apparatus bay, so on the space needs programming here, an item I would want to note is this, the space here for the apparatus bay is meant to be able to get rid of the Kilty building back here, which is where all the overflow fire department equipment is stored. So it's to get all the equipment under one roof as part of the fire department. So that's why it looks like a massive jump. It is bigger, but a lot of that is actually like the width between the aisles, so that you're not having an apparatus leaving as somebody standing right next to it putting their bunker gear on. And the distances to be able to open doors and not hit the truck next to you. That sort of little bit bigger space, but largely it's not to accommodate additional apparatus. It's stuff stored over here in the Kilty building.
Yeah, just a quick run through of the space needs. I mean, I see it like a little over 8,000 of the feet that you're proposing additional is for the fire department, and it's like 1,600 square feet for council, city admin, and park and rec. So the vast majority of it seems to be fire department. Yep.
Yep.
All right, so back to option one. Is there anyone that wants to keep option one on the table?
I'm not ready to reject anything right now.
I'm not either.
I do think it's going to be important that we figure out how to have this, like, it's council, there are 7 of us. I guess I'm a little concerned that we deliberate for 3 hours when there's consensus already on something. I mean, so to me, if 6 of us are willing to not look at option 1, I think we could move on.
I agree.
Okay. So if 6 of us are not willing to look at option 1, I think we should move beyond option 1.
I'm fine with axing option 1.
I'm saying.
I guess I'm with Steve. I'm not ready to axe anything yet.
Okay, then I,
Without further
okay.
looking at anything.
Randy, Cody?
I want to look at all of them before I decide anything.
Same for me. I'm leaning more towards not doing number one. I sympathize with local community members that want to preserve the historical sentiments of a local architecture, but in terms of the budget and investment in future, I'm leaning more towards not doing number one.
So I guess, do we want to ask more questions about option one so that we can either keep it on the table or move it off? Or what information
Kirsten,
will help?
Kirsten, can you answer that question?
What was the question?
The thing is, what would you see in number one? You weren't for sure that you would axe number one.
I guess I'm just, it has more to do with the fact that we've just voted in a $38 million bond issue for a school. And how far down the road do we want to go with asking taxpayers to pay money for additional stuff? Or are we willing to go, or the people have the appetite to go down that road of? That's where, I guess that's where I'm at right now. That's why I'm debating on all three options still.
Okay, so then I guess I would, that's great, because then I would argue 1 over 2, right? The difference between option 1 and option 2 is pretty minimal impact on the taxpayer, almost not really any. And so in my mind, what option 2 gives us that option 1 doesn't is a lot of loss of unknowns, right? So if we're not having to try to build into an existing structure, and we know that we're not going to touch anything, is this east of Travis, right? Anything this way. So then we're going to have $12 million that we invest and still have a building that has multiple defects in option 1.
I think it does address the capital improvements. Yeah.
Addresses the deferred or capital maintenance.
Right.
It'll deal with the stuff. What it does is it creates design, it limits design flexibility.
Yeah.
Because you're now trying to design into an existing space.
And so the existing space would then last another 20 years? Or is it still going to have some defects?
It's, again, back to the argument
Well,
of the structure will last as long as you maintain.
Sure.
Yeah. It's certainly going to have different some limitations.
Right. So I guess in terms of cost savings, it's a little bit like we've heard before. When you're building new, you know what you're getting into. I am concerned that if we try to maintain, and I am definitely sympathetic to the historic preservation. I don't think we're going to be able to preserve enough, honestly, that makes it significant to the point of not building right because we want to keep some windows. This doesn't make sense to me. So that's why option 1 to me, if option 1 and 2 were totally different in price, I might think differently, but to me they're a wash in terms of price. And so why wouldn't we want to lay the best foundation for our new construction that we can? And to me, that is not trying to preserve what we have, given that we're really not preserving that much.
Andy, what's your thoughts off the top of your head as far as keeping number 1 in versus not having it?
The fact that we're tearing down the part of the building that's given us the most issues with the sinking apparatus bay and building new and growing it while upgrading everything on this side to modernize it is more appealing than tearing down and starting all over at this point.
So, but you were saying.
Until we get into the weeds, and, that's what makes this so difficult, having not a plan or a design to put out in front of people. It's really hard to ask them to spend either 12 or $18 million. We've already gone down that road with one entity in this community that asked for 38 million without a plan, and we still haven't seen it. So that's where the hard part is for me, is the fact that we really don't have a plan. The library, when they came and asked for that 1.3 or whatever, they had a plan. They've actually gone out and gotten the money, or estimates for us, so nothing against you guys, because this is just how this bounced, but I think the timing is bad because we're just saying, you know, trust us.
Okay, but, so Randy, are you suggesting then, because we aren't going to have the weeds figured out by September 18th?
I know that.
So are you, I'm just curious, so are you saying no bond this year? Because that's the option. No bond this year, or we stay high level in this meeting, we get to a point that we know what we need, and we ask for what we need.
Well, that's the multi-million-dollar question.
No, I think it's a question for you.
As a hypothetical that might get us through this thicket, let's say that we picked one of these options today, you know, option 2, just to pick one. We would probably be able to expect at least more details in art by the time the bond was up for a vote, right? By the time, how about by the time the voter campaign was? I know we're not looking at final design, but could we get some concept drawings? Could we get a sense of like what would be included and where?
Yeah.
Is that reasonable
So
to expect?
Back up to the very first page with the check boxes, that is insinuating there's still more work to do, and that is the work that would be done.
So I think.
Yeah, let's talk about, so here's what I would say, because like I do this all the time in referendums, like you want to go, oh, what's it going to look like and what are we going to get? But we don't want, but you wouldn't want to start paying for an architect to put pencil to paper if your constituents say, no, that's not responsible either. So I think you could, what you should expect or would want to expect is some box drawing of space. You have programming of here's the square footage for all that you need. We know it'll fit. And often there's a sketch of the outside of a building, of kind of a general, here's what it would look like, because that gets people interested. But what's going exactly where and how it all fits together, you don't want to do until after you've got a yes. Because the amount of user input of sitting with the people using the spaces that goes into that pre-design. We come in and have hundreds of meetings where we're surveying and talking about how you work and who is it you work with and how much do you work with the public and who do you collaborate with, and all of that a team then uses when they design. So you don't want to pay all of the design fee up front before an election. But what you would know is this is the amount of square feet. Here's kind of the shape of, we know it can fit on the site. And a little bit of, you know, there'd be a few little pieces. Oftentimes we would put maybe some pull-out boxes with a photo of a concept, maybe from another project we've done, of this is a conceptual photo of what the new council chambers could look like. That's what you often would see, and probably what you'd want to see from a fiscal responsible for your residents.
Yeah, I think the context here that I totally understand. That's why I asked you if there'd be high-level concept drawings and allocations of space, and it sounds like the answer is yeah, we could do that by November. That's good. Randy, does that address some of your concerns? We don't want to. So our school board recently asked for a $38 million bond, and there's some criticism in the community that it was light on details. And you know, regardless of whether you think that or not, we do not want to. We want to be as like clear with the community about what we're planning as it's reasonable to be at this stage in the game. I think that's what Randy's asking for.
And I do think the difference between us and the school, not to throw the school under the bus, but with even what we have here, we've already allocated the space. So we're not going to change the size of the fire department, even in any one of these plans like they did the gym, right? I mean, it's not like all of a sudden we're going to be like, oh, actually, we've got extra money. Let's throw this at you. We have, even with these drawings, we have clear square footage, which is the other issue I have with option 1, is that it doesn't change the square footage of Park Rec or any other space needs from any other department. And when we talk about space, it's not space wants, but space needs. So
I think maybe you and I have a different understanding about option 1. I want to make sure that we're both on the same page. My understanding of option 1 is that everything's out of here but the fire department, including over there.
As well as 2.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you understand that.
But okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But
option
it doesn't
one and two
change
do not
the-
account for anything outside of fire department.
Right.
So this would become fire department out here.
Correct.
My bad.
Yeah, we still have to pay for something additional for the rest of what we need, council
And that,
Park Rec.
correct. And that was, I believe, the goal of option 3. At the time, it was believed to be the goal is, let's at least know that difference between the two project costs so that we can quantify, all right, what can we enter into with a lease agreement that makes it more cost effective? Or, you know, certainly if we're having to construct elsewhere offsite, that's going to have to be a consideration we have as well. What is that difference? That's where 1 and 2, fire department only, 3 accommodates all the existing services on the site.
But just to be clear, for option 1, which is why I think I'm confused, nothing changes over here. So it doesn't, the space still looks the same.
No, it's a full.
So you'll rip out everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
The roof and the walls are changed. Like, they might be in the same location they are, but they're new materials.
It would be a full gut of everything because the structure, the roof structure, and basically anything that supports gravity would need to be upgraded to modern code. So in order to access all of the roof joists, everything interior has to come out.
But you still have some design limitations because you're.
Yes, the configuration of space would be limited by the, existing facade, the existing openings, those things.
So for 600,000 more, we've got a free slate
So,
to
yeah.
figure it out. I'm not trying to convince either way. I'm just trying to, what's the difference?
But it sounds like you're trying to convince us a
No, I'm
little
not.
bit.
Trust me.
No, I think that's true, and I would argue with her. I mean, alongside her, I should say, right? Now we've had 2 experts tell us the same thing.
Not the same thing at all. But,
It's-
but they both have said that this building is in need of basic replacement or a complete overhaul. Like, that's where they align.
I guess if you had to pin me down on the 3 options we have available, the one that makes the most sense, obviously, is option 3. I mean, just because of, from the fiscal standpoint of how much this extra is gonna cost, but again, how much additional we're gonna have to pay to lease other facilities, to pay for rental space for the, for city council and the admin and park rec. Option 3 makes the most sense, but my question is it fair to ask the taxpayers in this community to come up with that much more money, given the fact we're already asking them to come up with $38 million for a school at the
We're
same
not.
time?
We're not
We're
asking.
not asking
Well,
them.
no, but they're gonna have to come up.
I think
That's my only question.
it is an unfair predicament that we're in.
It is.
But our role is to figure out what's
Right.
best for the city and what the city needs. It's not as if we're redesigning City Hall for everyone up here or for even just our Sandy managers, right? We're designing it for the community in order to meet the needs of the community that keeps them safe and provides the services that they expect from their city government at a level, again, about safety and efficiency. So with that in mind, I think $8 more a month, which is what we're asking. I don't like it, but I think it is required. And I think if I knew that $8 more a month would get me a more efficiently run city, providing the services that I love, like Park Rec, I guess it's worth it.
Emily, I'd like to push back a little bit, but I have a few more questions first to make sure I agree with what I currently think. So my first question is, you mentioned parking issues and the desire to avoid encroaching on the lot line as a reason that option 3 requires a second story. I'm disinclined to want a second story for a lot of reasons. The costs of stairwells and other under-circulated area, the cost of a code-conforming elevator and the maintenance of all those things, plus creating a remove, even if it's an accessible remove via an elevator, between the people and the government that serves them. So, I'm curious if you were more comfortable with encroaching on our lot line, especially given that we also own the street in front of this and the triangle in front of that, and in 5 years, the Bank of the West building if we want it. I guess what I'm saying is, are there options that we would consider building new that aren't currently represented here, or did you look at that and then decide that's just not that's not a good idea? Let's not go down that road.
No, I mean, this was just a quick, the three options that were identified in the RFQ. Quickly, how do you fit the square footage on the site? And quickly, how do you get numbers and information to you all to allow you to make a decision? So there's a infinite number of additional options that could be studied, or layouts of single-story buildings, configuration. That could all be possible.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I'm more open to option 3 if I know that we're not committing to a 2-story building. That's all I'm saying. And it may be that that's the right way forward. I just personally hope that there's alternatives.
Let me ask a follow-up question to Steve. Is it cheaper to build up than it is to build sideways, so to speak, to add that additional square footage?
I mean, I can go back and ask the cost estimator that specific question, but the
generally speaking, is
the
that
answer that is always given in cost is the more corners equals more dollars.
Right.
So doing a sprawled single story that fits on this trapezoidal site, you will have potentially more corners.
More roof to replace on a regular basis.
Going
Those
up,
are
you
slates.
could just make kind of a neat single volume of a building. But honestly, these are rectangles on site plan.
Right.
So
I understand.
It could be anything.
Thank you.
I think the real takeaway is the square footage and the dollar.
My second question then is do you, when you were doing your site assessment, how did you sort of assess obviously it's desirable for all of the equipment to be co-located. It's not ideal that some of our equipment is in a separate building. But that is one of the major cost drivers of this. Like, how do we determine, like what is merely desired from what is absolutely essential? Is there a case to be made for offsite storage of lesser used equipment? I'm just kind of curious when you're doing that site assessment.
What is essential is for the city to decide. It's not for me to decide. Was here, I cataloged what the space needs are of the apparatus and vehicles that like the fire department has, and that is what the apparatus bay is sized for in this. It's really, I guess, sorry to throw it back at you, but it's the fire department's job to decide what they need, and we're throwing it to you and saying, that this is what they believe.
So I would say, as you're being thoughtful about an investment, the forward thinking of, we currently don't have enough space, so things are being stored off-site. So are there things stored off-site that are used occasionally? So like last year when my husband fell off the barn roof and they were all there, but oh wait, we need the gator that's stored off-site in my community. So there he lay until we had to call for, and I sat there giggling to myself saying, oh, I was on the council when we made that decision to keep that off-site. Ha ha! Literally, this did happen. So I think a piece of it is, here's the square footage we need for apparatus. Do you tighten your space because of budget? And then, just like you said, in 20 years when people are thinking, is now the time to go, oh, we're gonna leave those off-site, but it isn't in the best interest of how the department functions. So I think that's a piece, but certainly could be in here's how much money we've got and the square footage we have, if there's a desire to go single story. As I look at this and think, okay, back to your first question of what if we're all in one story? So you can look at the red space and think almost another third, or you're taking this again and adding, now you're taking up parking.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Thoughtful of stalls for employees besides just constituents. I mean, all things we're gonna arm wrestle over as we trot through early design.
And I do want to remind council that we have had numerous meetings about discerning between essential wants and needs. And so I feel like the city staff has probably, I can't even imagine how many hours they've sat determining what it is an actual need. So I think we should trust that they have narrowed down need, personally.
I do want to go back to one of the comments Josh made in the group meetings, which he was actually pretty light on. When he introduced himself, he says, I'm probably not going to make friends here, but we're going to talk about what you actually need. And we did have one conversation that, and I don't want to say it got heated by any means, but there was definitely disagreement on what was needed in this space. So I do feel that, so the apparatus, as Josh has pointed out, the apparatus bay is simply a box with square footage that will accommodate all of the apparatus. We did not have extensive conversation of, okay, what apparatus are okay to have offsite. That, I just want to be clear, that conversation did not be had because we just focused on having all the apparatus as part of the fire station project.
Yeah.
But we definitely had conversations on number of bedrooms, number of meeting rooms, size, spaces inside the building as it related to operations.
I appreciate that, and I do appreciate you coming in and being more willing to be combative in closed doors than here in public. I guess you're right, that is my job to sort of do that in public, but I genuinely do appreciate it, and Emily, I do trust, but I think these are really important questions because, you know, I don't want someone to fall off of a roof and not have a gator there to help them, but if I spend $6 million to accomplish that, that's $6 million I can't spend to save other people's lives in other situations, to make intersections safer, to build better roads, to pay our staff, you know, to have the kind of public safety and service that we need to operate the fire department. It's like, you know, it's not as if it's like, do you want people to break their backs and not have equipment or not? Is this the best possible use for the money it costs to build as well as we want? And, you know, I feel like, you know, it seems like the council consensus is, or at least that there's an emerging one that you know, yeah, this is just what it costs to build what we need. That's what I'm hearing from people. Is that right? I would, you know, this isn't to you at all. This is my fellow council members too. I think that if we go down this road, the other thing, in addition to being maintenance minded, that we need to do is we really need to continue to ensure that the costs of operating our public safety services are borne by the people who benefit from them in proportionality to how they benefit. And right now, we spend $400,000 plus apparently about $500,000 a year in capital costs over the next 20 years to provide a fire service to the people that we serve. Half of the calls leave our city limits, and they serve people who kick in 60-some thousand a year. Now, those people need fire service too, but I think that they all want to be supporting the fire department that shows up whenever they need help. And right now, that's not how things are currently arranged. I think that's a fight worth having. I think that's a fight worth picking, even if it makes us unpopular or seem unfriendly. And so, like, I'm not willing to go down this road unless I feel like I have a sense from the council that they're willing to work with me on figuring out a way to make sure that this cost is borne by the people who benefit from the building that's going up.
Totally agreed.
That's where I'm at.
100%.
Have no problem with that at all, Steve.
No problem with that at all either.
Okay.
You should get your answer there.
Well, I genuinely believe that we cannot continue to raise housing costs in Decorah to subsidize people who do not live in Decorah. And that's what it is to pass a bond. It is raising housing costs not just for today, but for our kids when they're buying a house out of college, so that we have this wonderful fire service. We need to make sure that everyone who's benefiting from it kicks in to support it.
I understand that. Through the discussion, do we have any changes as far as getting down to number one call and considering change?
It is unfortunate timing that both major buildings in town are coming up against needing so much work to the degree of needing to build new buildings. Obviously, the fire department needs what they need. We've all been through it and known that they need a new fire department, essentially. It seems kind of absurd to rent within the city that we operate. I think that a municipality should have its own place for staff and council and everyone to work together. I like the cross-pollination between the departments. So it's unfortunate to ask for the higher of the three, but I'm leaning more in that direction in terms of keeping everything together, building what we need, and then not also having to rent at the same time. That seems unnecessary. It might be within budget, but I think that we need to go towards 3 if we're going to be tearing down and building, which seems like number 1 is possibly out for a portion of us. I'm leaning more towards 3, even though it's a scary ask on top of the previous scary ask for
I think,
community.
let's see, I've listened to discussions on the fire station for many, many years, and there's always been something that states, well, we better not do this.
Yeah.
We better not work this now, and there comes a time when it's just time to do it. And I think that, I know that that's unfortunate. I think you have to consider what you put into it and be conscious of doing it the best you can and watching the money. But the thing is we always just get right to that edge and then we just fall back. When it really needs to, you just almost have to bite the bullet and work with it. And the other thing is you're going through, you're going to be bonding, your constituents in the city are going to say how they feel about it. But in order for them to make a wise decision, they're going to have to know we're doing the best we can as far as filling what we actually need.
I don't think there is time, but I do wish there was time to continue to pursue a different site for our parks and rec staff and our administration offices, specifically the idea of the Bank of the West, a location on Water Street where people could come and interact with those who represent their city government. That seems great to me. Also, Travis, I know that you were looking for the break-even point with your lease calculations, but it's almost certainly cheaper to rent in Decorah than to buy or than to build right now, especially if the building you're doing is, sort of fire department or municipal building and not residential building or commercial building, which, I think that it's almost, I feel like there's maybe an option that's not here, but I'm aware that's not the most welcome thing to hear. I would like to, I don't want to pass bond language tonight, even if there's a sense that we need to do option 3, and I think a special meeting would be the way to do it.
That's fine. I think I actually would, I'm fine with that, and I think we should have. I don't think we can digest, deliberate, and then decide, right? To me, I just like to eliminate so I know what I'm actually thinking about for a week. So I don't want to have to think about 3 options.
I think that was their ask tonight as well.
Yeah.
That we at least come to consensus on which option is most logical or makes sense for us.
Parker, I'm curious, you haven't really picked an option as far as I know.
I'd probably, if I got a lot kind of going through my head on the different options. I'm leaning towards the option 3, and the reasons for that is, I think I understand the thought process about renting or leasing, but that also is one of those things of we have no idea where a very critical part of essential services for the city would go. And with that also being stated too, that comes out of the general fund. So if we're leasing a size of a property that is going to house the people that are not involved with this, out of our general fund was $130,000. That's just a random number. That's a hit out of a general fund when we every budget year, we're looking at that general fund number, and, you know, so that, to me, having this wrapped up in this bond referendum, we know where they're gonna go, they're here, and looking for that projective long-term would probably be the way that I would look at it and go.
And I think that's a really good point. One of the things that came to my mind early was this idea of where are we getting the money? So we can't actually pay salaries with the same money we would build this building for, right? So we can't save this money and then say, let's do this, because it's two pots of money. One's a general fund, which we are always under pressure, which in some way, Steve, is the money that we can do the other life-saving things that we do in the community with to some degree, in that a debt service on a bond is a very different way. Obviously, there's still tax dollars, but if we hit our general fund by having to lease a building, renovate a building, buy a building, and not have it be a bond, that's things we actually would have to cut out of our city operations. I also, you know, I've been on council now, this is my 6th year, and when I got on, we were talking about a fire station, right? And we had lots of dreams. We thought about Park Rec over at West Side. We thought about Park Rec, let's build an A-frame at Wayside. I mean, I feel like we've tossed around a lot of ideas. Mark's like, what? Tossed around a lot of ideas and nothing has come to fruition, and maybe there's a reason for that. But when you think of the difference between 17 and 12 and you realize that you're getting all of the space needs met by the city in a cohesive place for $5 million, it includes Park Rec, city administration, new city halls, chambers that everyone can fit in, seems like a good deal to some degree. And we can always dream about things that we don't have, you know, we can always dream about options that aren't on the table. But the problem is they're not on the table. And we have been putting off the fire station. First it was Locust Road, you know, then it was, you know, this, then it was that. And in the meantime, everything has gotten more expensive. Every year we wait, every bond we pass by, it's just going to get more and more expensive.
I think, Emily, I think you bring up a good point, the fact that this has been getting kicked down the road for a long period of time. We can look back to the school issue when that came out. That was 18 years ago they started talking about that. And I think the first estimate they got was like 18 million. And now we're up to 38 million here 18 years later. So if we keep kicking this ball down the road farther, this 17 million is going to become 20 million, 35 million on up the road. So I think that's a valid point as well. We've been kicking it down the road too long.
Travis, I have questions, and maybe Carrie too. I have questions about the implications of a bond like this. Right now, it's true that we're allowed to levy as much as we want for debt that the voters approve, right? And I'm curious. Obviously, you can't read the future. I suspect cities are going to figure out that one way that they can exceed the state's levy maximums is borrow money one year, use it to kind of pay for capital expenses instead of leases and salaries, and the next year you pay it back, or you just tack it onto the bond. Travis, it seems like you know where I'm going here.
I do. That issue was actually addressed in legislation last year, because believe it or not, there was a municipality that was doing that because our 810 levy is capped, debt service levy is not, it's not necessary, so they were borrowing, I believe from a local institution, with a 30-day repayment period, so they could show it as debt, use those proceeds to pay operational costs, and then using the debt service levy to collect those revenues.
Right. So I guess, and I'm sure the state's not going to be cool with a 30-day floating loan as a way to circumvent their max. What I'm wondering though is if you stretch that out to several years, or what we're going to do, what I'm terrified about, what keeps me up at night about passing this sort of levy is what if in 2 or 3 years the state government decides all sources max levy rate is $13.50 or something, or $11.50 or whatever number they pick. We have to pay this bond back. And so then we start closing things and firing people. And so I don't want to build more than we have to. And that's sort of why I'm like, even if we can kick the can down the road on some of this spending, maybe that's worth thinking seriously about, to not over encumber our levy for 20 years, a lot of which is going to interest payments, given that we don't know in this legislative environment, are we always going to be able to support our current services if we swallowed this building bond? Is that a reasonable concern is kind of my question.
So, I get that concern. I'll start with a lighthearted response first for you guys. The police department and fire department unions are very strong in Des Moines. That would never happen without people losing their spots in the state senate and state. likelihood of that isn't very high for existing debt. Now, I very much could see in the foreseeable future, and don't take this as this is why we gotta do it now, but I could see something like that done in the future, that all tax levies will be capped at this amount, because I know of at least one other community in northeast Iowa that is over 20 for the city alone. And I could see them coming and saying, no, nobody's getting over 20. But that's gonna be moving forward. I would put money on that, any type of legislation like that is moving forward.
And then I have a follow-up question for both Carrie and Travis. Can you compare your comfort levels with a $12 million bond issue compared to our current debt limit, and sort of where we're at, and your comfort with a $17 million? And please only answer to the point where you feel like it's appropriate to respond. I mean, obviously this decision does fall on the council in the end.
I won't take as long as Travis, so I'll just quickly go. I rely.
It's a Thank you.
You are me.
No.
It's Tuesday.
I very much trust our financial advisor, and so I don't know enough about this, honestly, to know, but I know he does. And Travis and I had this conversation because he's the one that spoke with Michael last week, and I did not, and I wanted to know, like, I don't want to know the numbers. I want to know just Michael's, what's he thinking, where we're at. I do think that myself, I would be comfortable with the higher one, with the debt we're in now. And I do agree with like what's going on with the state. I do think they'd have the carve out of with anything that's on the books already.
And I would say, when you ask about comfort, I'm going to speak in relation to the city's debt capacity and what this would amount to. Our current debt service load is fairly minimal, honestly, comparatively speaking to other cities. When 5 years ago, when interest rates were low, cities were pushing that debt service capacity 80%, 85% was honestly pretty norm. City of Decorah never jumped on that train, so we've kept our debt service limit pretty low, or excuse me, the limit's still up there, but what we're carrying as far as a percentage has historically been very low. I know others will point at the current interest rate, it's not an ideal time to borrow. I get it, 5 years ago would have been ideal. However, it is important to note that 5 years ago, one of the things the city did do with those low interest rates was refinance existing debt. Mm-hmm. And so by locking in a interest rate at some point, you can always refinance down the road to lower that interest rate if the rates come down. So I don't know that I would be worried about that side of the coin with interest rates, and I would not be concerned either on our current debt capacity and what bringing on either one of these loans would entail for that as well. Because that is in, I can't remember which exhibit that is. Oh, sorry.
The treasurer's report had it this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I-
Well, and I think whenever we have, it's the auditors, we've also had financial advisors that
we
come
have.
and essentially say, and I think that we have been talked to. I remember early on in my council that when your debt service is low, really low, it's indicative of not investing enough in your community. And I do wish, again, that this fire station had gotten built 5-10 years ago.
Sure, but
So,
we're here now.
right.
Yeah. My credit card company's convinced I should be spending more money also, and for the same reasons. We do have to pay this back someday. There's no printing press. Although if things keep up, maybe the money will be inflated away and we won't have to worry about it.
So is the conversation as far as meeting on Monday night, in the meantime, looking over everything that has been presented and discussed?
Mayor, I think maybe even we could ask for a closer look at option 3 as part of this, since I feel like that's where Brent, Christopher,
Okay.
Kristen, Cody, and Emily all are.
Okay.
That's the sense I've heard. I don't want to spend a lot of
Okay.
time not making progress on the thing that seems to be the current preference.
And
Is
I'm
Monday-
okay saving it till Monday,
Is Monday night our option for
special meeting,
like
right?
a special
Or
meeting
do you
or
want
a
it?
work session or whatever?
Planning and Zoning Commission is supposed to have a regularly scheduled meeting. At this point, I believe all that they have are some C3 design applications to make recommendations to, so that should move fairly quick. That meeting is 5:15, 5:30, thank you. So if we wanted to do a 6 o'clock start time and then just start after they're done, that could work. If you want to pick a different day than Monday, that could work too, but I wouldn't
Mondays.
start before 6 on Monday.
6 on Monday works for me.
6 on Monday works for me.
6 on Monday work for everybody?
Yep.
One
Other
thing, if
questions you would need from our team in advance or on Monday?
We could email Travis questions. Is that
That's
helpful?
perfect.
and if you could, please have those emailed to me by Thursday.
Yep.
That would be great, so that I can get them to the team on Thursday and hopefully potentially even get a response as soon as Friday and have it in the packet. If that's what I'm looking to get is, here were all the questions asked of council members. Send it off to the ISG staff. Here were all of their responses, just a Q&A sheet essentially in Dropbox. If you can get them to me by Thursday, I appreciate that.
And
If I'm-
I was just going to say that this period of time between now and this proposed special meeting is also good because it gives the public time to reach out to us and give us the kind of information that they want us to know as we're entering into these conversations. So I appreciate our partners in the media who will no doubtedly, make sure that the public's aware that, hey, we're looking hard at this third option. And we certainly welcome any community feedback in the meantime.
So one thing I want to point out real quickly, if I may, as Councilmember Zittergren was asked about the deck capacity and comfortable there. Here is the sheet from our budget discussions for fiscal 26 that shows our total remaining debt that we have on the books at the end of fiscal 26 is $5,900,000. I apologize for everyone on Zoom and in the room. You're seeing this pretty small, but here's the total amount. This is our capacity, which is 14.6%. So we have a significant amount of capacity that I'm not worried about there. That's why I wanted to show that to express it. Here's a graphic representation of where we're at with annual payments.
I remember this
Council has
That's
heard me
it.
talk about this big green thing. That is Locust Road. And when that goes away, we're all going to be extremely happy.
Although I love the
So
road.
that's what I do is I'm showing this as a cliff that with a financial advisor, we would structure any debt taken on by the city in a way that tries to ease as much of the addition on top of this that's already stacked. But for that those first 4 years or so, it is going to be stacked. So that's when the population's going to see the most impact to their tax bill are essentially 4 years of overlap. And I know, Council, we've talked about this before in the past. I'm not trying to say, well, if Locust Road's going to drop off, then we just go ahead and throw another debt behind it so that it's just room we have. It is room we have, but those are real tax implications.
Thanks, Travis, for explaining that. I think that'll be really clarifying for a lot of people. Appreciate it.
And again, this is in the budget books, but if
Yep.
anyone wants
Yep,
this,
I
you can
remember.
also go to Dropbox to our budget discussions.
Yep, I
It's in
remember
there as
that
well.
talk, that discussion. Yep, thanks.
Yep.
That sounds good. Thank you very much for the discussion.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna follow up just because there were 3 more bullets on our little time together, but they'll take 10 seconds. So I guess that key date with your meeting next Monday would put you in position to meet that September 18th deadline to put something on the ballot on November 4th. What can you then expect from our team? We then will start kind of more of that box diagram and put together what we would call an information campaign for you. So
Okay.
the intention is to make sure that every resident that would be a voter in your community truly understands what's on the ballot, the why behind it, and what it's going to cost them. And so there's all kinds of ways that we do that in different, so from a social media campaign to building a referendum website to lit drops to display boards that can be moved around and used in the community to providing presentation materials that could be used. And then finally, a frequently asked questions piece that we would work with you as you get questions or things that you're thinking, it would be important for me to know. I always say that as a council member, you know, the three places that you need to be most concerned is if you're sitting in a bar, you're getting your produce, or you're in the back of church, right? Those are probably the three places, at least, that I was usually most likely to get lit up by people about why are you doing, what are you doing? And so wanting to make sure that you've got answers to your questions of the things that when you're deciding which piece of produce to pick, that when somebody leans over your shoulders and has a comment or a question, that you can respond to that. So that's really the information piece of what we also will do to best support you from the decision that you make, whatever that is, through Election Day.
I have what is hopefully a quick question for John. As council, can we advocate for a yes vote on this bond, or can we only advocate and educate about the bond?
This goes as an
individual.
As an individual, you can advocate, and then they could pass a resolution.
Okay, so
They
similar.
can pass a resolution.
Similar to the MEU, we could pass a resolution that we want, that we support it, and we
Right.
can door knock as individuals.
Well, as individuals, you
Okay. I
have
just
your
wanna be
First
clear.
Amendment right.
Okay.
So I think a piece of that is using your city email address, should you have one, to push information versus advocacy is probably the one piece about being most
Right.
thoughtful.
Mhm.
Okay. I just wanted to.
That's like a good example.
Yep.
Informational materials we will provide will always go through the lens of, because we're being hired by the city to help support this, anything that we create will not have an advocacy angle to it. It will be informational.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sticking with
Appreciate
us.
you guys coming up for that. Yep.
Thanks for standing so long. I was about to offer chairs. Yeah.
Okay. Consider ordinance amending municipal code of the City of Decorah, Chapter 17.28 and 17.120 regarding special exemptions in the F1 floodplain district. Second reading. Do you want to just kind of refresh our memory on that, please?
Yep, so this is the amendment would allow a special exception permit to be considered and possibly issued by the Board of Adjustment for gravel as an acceptable parking material in the F1 floodplain district only. Again, as a reminder, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend the proposed ordinance, so adoption does require 5 out of the 7 for an affirmative vote.
I move the resolution, the second reading.
Second.
Zittergreen made motion, Olson seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Zittergreen?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscellaneous?
Aye.
Mayor, I move to waive the second, or the third reading and adopt.
I'll second.
Zittergreen made the motion to waive the third and adopt, and Miscellaneous seconded. Roll call.
Zittergreen?
Aye.
Miscellaneous?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Okay. Consider approval of proposal for Decorah Municipal Pool 2025 pass holders.
What about 9?
Obviously.
We forgot
9.
number 9.
How did I get that? Oh, I just crossed it off. Thank you very much. Consider ordinance amending section 10.52.170 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding using streets and storage. Second reading. Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Neal. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Have we had any comments? I'd move to waive the third reading and adopt.
Second.
Chisel moved to waive and adopt, seconded by Olson. Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Neal. Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Okay, now I can move on.
Now we can talk
Can-
about the swimming pool.
Consider approval of proposal for Decorah Municipal Pool 2025 pass holders. Can you give background on that, please?
Yes. So the pool season was planned this year for 12 weeks. Due to mechanical failures, opening was delayed 1 week, and at the end of the season, due to broken glass in the pool deck, gutter in the pool basin, we did close 2 weeks early. While the closures were result of stuff outside of staff's control, we are proposing to credit, I want to stress the term credit, this is not a refund, but credit an individual's parks and recreation account for all season pass holders for 25%. So if you close 3 weeks out of a planned 12, that's how we came up with that 25%. If one is requested prior to October 1st. The reason this is on it, maximum credits issued would be $17,000. That's above my purchase authority. So that's why at a previous meeting you heard me say we're still working on a proposal. Park Board met, Board of Park Commissioners has recommended approval of this. Now it's at council.
I make a motion that we approve the proposal for the Decorah Municipal Pool 2025 pass holders.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson for the pass holders. Pool pass.
Thanks.
I want to commend.
Thanks to staff. Yeah, go ahead.
There you go.
Oh, I was just saying, I want to commend staff for coming up with this proposal.
Okay,
and
thank
do
you.
it this way. I think this is a good way to do it. It'll incentivize people to sign up again next year for their pool pass and stuff like that. So I think that's a good idea.
And an easy way to support a hardworking, wonderful Parks and Rec program is to do nothing. If you're not in a position where that refund is the make or break for you, consider just letting it be. That said, I'm glad that this opportunity is available to people for whom this means a difference between a budget item that they need or not. Like there's a lot of people who had no plan to entertain their kids for the last couple weeks of summer. They probably went into their pocket for things, and this is a way to make them a little whole. So I'm glad we could do this for people who appreciate it.
Okay, roll call.
Neal.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Discussion on public comment received regarding jail services and arrestees. There's no action on this. We have received comments. You want to give any more background, please?
Yes, so 2 council members request this item placed on the agenda as a result of public comment received at the August 4th meeting. I'm going to read a little disclaimer here that I came up with my own. I doubt it's going to do me any good, but if nothing else, it serves as a reminder to everyone in the room that nothing that I give as a statement should be construed as discouraging, prohibiting, or restricting law enforcement officers, employees, or officials from cooperating with or assisting in federal immigration law enforcement activities. This is largely Iowa Code Chapter 27A, which, as we're all in this room well aware of, is what got Dan Mark sideways from a Facebook post. I'd like us to avoid a similar situation. Yeah, I don't know, John, if that disclaimer did me any good, but I'm going to try it.
You want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I can start it off. I was one of the 2 that requested it be on the agenda. I think that when I think about how I want government to work, I think if the public brings something forth and wants to discuss it, I think that we owe it to them to do that in an honest and open way. And the reason I ran for city council is to be a representative for my community. It's also to, on a personal note, push myself to be a stronger person, better at communication, able to have the principles to make decisions and stand by them. So forgive me if I'm working off of paper here, but I'm working on the communication part of it. I'm so proud to live in this town, just strong-willed and compassionate for community, and both sides of this issue that we've heard spoken, they have so much in common. They care so much about human rights and deep concerns for immigrants, and in all of this talking to different elements of who this would affect, nobody was against immigration or against human rights in any way. I deeply respect both sides who've spoken on this public request. I respect the opposition held by people who've put years of hard work in, ground work experience they've put forth, and I respect the people who put forth a request for their tenacity and deeper questions considering systematic causes for these issues and kind of tenacity to get the conversation moving. I have been saying since before I was on city council that how we're going to get through all of this darkness right now is just open, honest community conversations about the issues. And I commend people that have brought forth this proposition or this ordinance for having that conversation and being willing to talk about that and getting people here and talk about it. I agree and disagree with both sides on certain elements of their arguments. I agree that more needs to be done. I'm excited by the opportunity for collaboration and unity towards injustices that we see happening. And now is the time for us to work together. It was stated beforehand also very eloquently that this is a good opportunity for us to join forces and cooperate. It's not the time to fraction. We have to stand strong in solidarity against these injustices that are happening. And we need to have the humility to learn from the other side of the same coin, which in this case, fortunately, is one of respect and care for the more vulnerable people among us. There's been a lot of pointing to other places that are doing this, which doesn't always take into consideration the fact that our hands can be tied in certain elements. As we've seen tonight, there's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that I'm learning every meeting. And I mean, as it was also stated at the very beginning, we can't even regulate Airbnbs in this town without fearing the consequences, or legally we can't do that. So it's a good conversation to have, but legally I don't support it moving forward, just in terms of what we can do. But that's not to say that I want this energy to stop or discontinue in any way. I would love for all factions here tonight to work together and push for those systematic things to be changed at the state level, county level, also the municipal level, when we are able to do that in a effective way that is going to do the most good. I agree with folks that are saying that there is more potential for a negative attention, and the amount of moving parts that have to coalesce for this to work in an efficient, good way is a difficult thing to maneuver, to coordinate, and if it's going to work the best way, we want it to do that. We want to tackle the systematic problems first, but all work together and keep this energy alive and together and share energy, share experience, The older generations that have been working on this for so long have so much experience, and the younger generations with the tenacity to get the conversation started and the questions that they're asking about systematic involvement. Those are things that need to cross-pollinate and work together, because I think that we can all really push this ball forward if we're sharing that insight. And as I said before, just the humility to learn from other people who care just as much in a different way. And that's not to say that we don't all feel that there's absolute injustices that are happening, that none of us stand by. Everyone that spoke tonight, nobody is not concerned about that. It's just a delicate situation in terms of state law and our abilities within it. That's what I got.
And I do have prepared remarks, because it's taken me a long time to grapple with this issue and think about it. But I was the second council person to put it on the agenda. So thank you, Cody, for having a long conversation with me in order to do this, right? So I did deliberate a long time about having this item put on the agenda. Ultimately, I came to realize the importance of officially discussing the ordinance because people had asked us to do so. Good government is built when people's voices are heard and the requests are given attention. My role as a council person is to listen to the ideas of the people in Decorah, weigh the pros and cons of multiple perspectives, and to use the guidance and experience of trusted experts to make the best decision possible with the information at hand. One of the best things I love about being a council person is that I often have my own ideas challenged in a manner that lets me both be open to larger possibilities and grounded in the reality and limits of government. We live in unprecedented times. Democracy is under attack, as are citizens and those coming to America for a better life. Our country thrives when people engage, and I'm proud of the group of citizens in Decorah that have come here to engage and are passionate about taking a stand on the surrounding injustice and incomprehensible acts towards immigrants in our country by the federal government. I stand with them in outrage, but I don't see the proposed ordinance as a mechanism to protect immigrants, nor as a means to do anything other than create harmful and unwanted attention. The ordinance as proposed is either outside of the jurisdiction of the City Council, against the law, or in some cases, already practiced and covered by other city ordinances. Additionally, it opens up our city manager and our officers to unnecessary conflicts as they try to determine how to enforce a city ordinance that is in direct opposition to state law and/or creates a power struggle with federal law enforcement. Additionally, the ordinance as drafted makes assumptions that are simply not true and puts Decorah at significant risk that, in the end, is not protective of the egregious acts happening at the federal level towards immigrants. I feel like there has been some misinformation spread regarding the relationship between the county and the jail. The county owns the jail and is responsible for its oversight. To be clear, this Decorah City Council has no oversight of the county jail. It merely sits on land owned by the city. There's no payment made for the use of the land, given that the land is also part of the county. Now, I realize that other communities in other states do have such separation ordinances on the books, but none in Iowa. State law varies from state to state, and even some deeply red states have more protection for local control by cities than the state of Iowa. Unfortunately, 16 years of Republican domination at the state level has diminished the authority of city governments to a place where we have very little local control, especially on issues related to immigration. We've already experienced threats to our county by our state government as a result of standing up for immigrants, even when the remarks were well within legal parameters. It's easy to ask us to step outside this box when we ourselves are not personally threatened, but to make our county a target again does nothing for anyone, especially immigrants. Additionally, and most importantly, this ordinance does nothing to protect immigrants, and I feel like there are better ways to do this work that will not put our city police and our staff in the line of fire, nor bring unwanted attention to our immigrant neighbors. Unfortunately, when I've tried to discuss these ideas with the immigrant rights group, they seem uninterested in working with us and our ideas. 2 weeks ago, Councilperson Olson and I attended one of their meetings with the hope of exploring a path forward in partnership with the City Council. When we tried to share ideas, it was clearly stated to us that not only were we not welcome, but this group was only interested in this particular ordinance, and that there was no room at that time for council input. And this ordinance as drafted is not one that I can support.
I think Cody and Emily summed up quite a bit of it. I too want to applaud the people that have showed up here tonight, both for the ordinance and against the ordinance. It just shows that we have a community that's concerned about what's going on in our communities and stuff like that. I know we've all seen the images on TV, the horrific things that have been going on and stuff like that. A couple things I guess I would add to that. I've talked to Chief Thine quite a bit about this particular topic. I know our police department is reaching out and doing the right things that they can do within the confines of the laws that they have to deal with Iowa, international law, and national laws. They have several things. I mean, they have a language line set up so that they can get a hold of any language that somebody needs to be able to speak, so they can communicate with these people that don't speak English as their first language. They have a complaint line that's open to people should something go awry that people don't agree with or don't like. To this point, they've yet to receive any complaints about the way they've dealt with our immigrant population. So I think they're reaching out and doing the right things. Our police chief comes from Marshalltown. That's where she originally had come before she came here. They have a much more diverse ethnic community there in Marshalltown. She's very well adept at dealing with immigrants and ethnic populations, so I think she's very well equipped to deal with this. Our law enforcement officers get training in this type of thing, so I think they're very, very well equipped to deal with it as well. The other thing I'd like to point out, I know these horrific things we've been seeing like in LA, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and stuff like that. We are a very small community here. Our local law enforcement people that are here, they reside in our community. Everybody knows everybody here. If they don't know an immigrant, maybe their neighbor probably does. They might work with them. They might, live next door to them as well. So we come in contact with everybody on an almost daily basis in our small community here. So they're not interested in doing harm to these people that are law-abiding citizens and are providing good quality services in our community. They have to live amongst these people and deal with them. They're interested in helping out the best they can as well. So I don't think this is the format to do this with an ordinance. I think our best line of dealing with this is we have church groups that are working on this, that are dealing with our immigrant population. We have the Peace and Justice Center that's also interested in doing this type of work and are doing it as well. I think if we all work together and get a communal group together to support our immigrant population in every way we can, I think that's our best way of going about it. So again, I applaud you folks for coming forward with this, but I don't think the ordinance is the proper way to go either.
I'll say just a few things because I did share my perspective at some length in a letter to the editor that was published a few weeks ago, and have had conversations with many of you subsequent to that letter. Appreciate the pushback I got to some of the points I made and the requests for further clarifications. One of the requests for further clarifications, what are the downsides? What are the unknown risks of this piece of legislation that you mentioned? I think Emily did a wonderful job of talking about some of the negative consequences of a spotlight on Winnebago County. That said, I listened carefully tonight. I heard many of you say one version or another of, many of you who spoke in favor of the ordinance, say one version or another of, this is a moral moment, that we are in a moral moment where the stakes are high and where down the road we will want to have done everything possible and that we'll have to live with the choices that we make. I hear that loud and clear, and I think that's accurate. I am not content with the status quo. I think you can read my letter to the editor for my description of my current feelings about the way that immigration is, being enforced elsewhere in the nation. I also agree that there's nothing that's going to prevent some of the terrible things we see on TV from visiting us here. And I do think that it's important that we be sober and realistic about that. That said, I spent a lot of time and energy to talk, to tour, to learn from our local public safety partners and local immigration advocates and people who've been doing this work for a long time. And I am convinced that we respect the constitutional rights of folks who engage with our police department and who are at our county jail and who engage with our sheriff's office. I'm convinced that when law enforcement encounters folks in the community, regardless of immigration status, we see the human and we respect the human and we honor the inherent dignity that every person has, regardless of what country is on their passport. And if that changes, this is a conversation I want to reopen. But until that changes, I'm proud of our local law enforcement for the work that they do with immigrants. And I encourage it and I support it. And in the meantime, as a community, I hope that we can move forward figuring out how to best support our local immigrants who are under attack from lots of angles. So looking forward to the next step in this conversation. I'm not against every suggestion in the separation ordinance. However, I think that most of the suggestions or most of the things the ordinance would accomplish will be better accomplished in other ways through other conversations. If there's appropriate changes that might be made to intake language on a form or to information that's provided to arrestees, that's not appropriately dealt with via ordinance. That's most appropriately dealt with by hiring good people and working with them and being in communication with the people in charge of those elements of the work that we do together and making improvements. I don't think that the immigration ordinance as proposed, the separation ordinance, is the best way to protect and serve our community, and so I don't support it.
I wanted to follow just with something Steve said.
But if we let,
Oh, sure.
Any other council people that wants to.
Yeah, I do have a few thoughts as well. Much like Steve, I, did say something on the public-facing side of things. I do want to start out with saying, I appreciate the conversation that has occurred here tonight. I know that's not an easy thing. Sometimes when we have conversations up here, it's not the easiest thing to do as well. We saw that tonight in our conversations, with the new municipal building and fire station. There's hard conversations. And the fact that you guys are getting up and having those conversations is a great thing to see in our community. I do want to, kind of delve into one of the core principles when I got involved with city government that I kind of try to guide myself by in today's time and every day I have conversations when it comes to this role is our community as a whole and what I can do for our community in that retrospective. And I try to follow that as best as I can in everyday conversations and decisions that we make here. One of those things leading up to that, since joining council, I've really, I'm going to be the first, and, I even admitted this publicly facing that, I didn't 100%, understand city operations, but I took the time to learn, and I continue to do that. And from that, I've learned an awful lot, and I think a lot of people, have stressed this, but I've done a lot of front-facing things with our local law enforcement agency. I've had some pretty in-depth conversations with them as well, and I know on that basis alone, they hold themselves to a pretty high standard, and I'm very grateful that, to Steve's point, they're our neighbors, they're in our community, and they're here for us to support us. At the end of the day, I personally, as I shared earlier, am here and entrusted with my constituents and the needs and wants that they have. Those may not always align, and that's okay, because that's the thing of civic mindedness. We can have those disagreements. At the end of the day, I don't take a professional position on said ordinance. I think it's great we're having the conversation, but much to Steve's point, and I believe Emily brought it up briefly as well, we do have a bunch of other local organizations that are fighting for the same needs in our community. And at the end of the day, I would urge, a collective effort, if you will, among organizations and having those conversations and how you can better suit each other and accomplish the goals that you set out to accomplish. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Any other comments from the council?
I just have one more because I think Steve brings up a good point about a moral moment. This is a moral moment. As a council person, I do take that heavily, and I think that there is work that we can do as council people. I don't think it's this ordinance. And I think anybody who's written me, at the end I say, I am willing to work towards a better Iowa when it comes to immigration. As a local elected official, I am willing to work and do that work, and it takes more than just us up here. But that work doesn't happen sitting here passing an ordinance. That works talking to other cities, talking to other people, communicating and having meetings, not these meetings, but meetings together as community. This isn't the place. I've tried to hammer that in when people write me. So I don't want to come across as closed to the notion that there is some power that a city government has. This just isn't it, in my mind.
Any other council comments?
Just, this is difficult because it's respect everybody in this room. And I've just had to put myself in the brain space of just being excited about the amount of people that care this much and what we can do together, and the fact that there's seats that we could all fill if we feel like running for things and trying to change things in a bigger way. And that's not say that it's, I also feel that like we, if not now, when would I have stood up when the time came? But with all the other things that I know and have spoken to other people and concerns I've asked questions about, it's just, and if we're thinking strategy, this just is not, I don't think it's the best strategy.
I appreciate the council's comments and considerations. Would
Yeah,
you
I just
like
kind of
go
wanted
into
to say one
Okay.
thing. Actually, kind of a few things. I'll be quite honest with you. I was really confused about the ordinance in general, just kind of reading it. I kind of want everybody to realize, maybe kind of clean up some confusion. As we go around, as I go down, it says Winnebago County and the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office should remove. Winnebago County Sheriff's Office staff should follow. Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, Winnebago County Sheriff's Office. This is the city of Decorah. We have no say in what our elected sheriff does in his jail. And so I just wanted to make sure that people understand that we don't have agreements. He is a county entity. He is an elected official. He is your representative. If you have issues, maybe this is best served talking to him, not using the city of Decorah to circumvent that. So for whatever that's worth, we have no say and ability to change any of that. And so I just kind of wanted to clarify that a little bit. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
Well, like Brent said, and after following what Dan went through with the state, and I trust our sheriff's department, I trust our police department, I trust the other police departments throughout Winnebago County to do the right things because they've all gone through the academy, the trainings, they know what's right and what's wrong. They're the professionals, and at the end of the day, I give them my full support and trust.
Hey, thank you very much. We still have 2 vacancies on the Decorah Human Rights Commission. Any other matters to come before the council? Hearing none.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.